Chapter 241. Shadow, I want to smash you. At night, Murong and young hero Duan faced each other, with a battle about to erupt. Murong, with his hair dyed green and fluttering, casually grabbed a wooden board pulled from under the bed and wielded it with sword intent, whereas Duan Yun held a rolling pin, brandishing it with sword chi. At their level, a wooden board and a rolling pin could both be weapons. It only mattered how well they could use them. Normally, Murong would never spar with Duan Yun, because no one understood the terror of old demon Duan better than him. The horror of old demon Duan could, in a careless moment, send you soaring to heaven or cast you down into hell. His sister Feng Linger was influenced by this man's punching wind. She wanted to die from suffering like being in hell, but was then cured by him with finger technique and the shivering of cold. The process was like ascending to heaven. A thought between God and demon, that was the epitome of Duan Yun. Thinking of his sister's plight, Murong's hair seemed to grow even greener. Yes, normally he would not dare to spar with Duan Yun. But now he dared, because tonight, the blows he had taken were too many, the pain in his heart too intense, and he had become even stronger. His miserable and enduring sword intent, the sword skills realized in his inner pain, peaked at this very moment. Now was the time for him to confront old demon Duan within the bedroom. Thinking of this, Murong's green hair thrived, and his sword intent surged like tides. He even thought of the legend of the decisive battles at the peak of purple blossoms in the martial arts world. Suddenly, he had made his move. The wooden board sliced horizontally, sword intent swirling around. There had been no wind in the room, but now it was present. The wind was not strong, but at this moment, it became tangible like mist, and Duan Yun could clearly sense that terrible malice. The rolling pin in Duan Yun's hand thrust upwards, his whole body exuding breaking body sword energy just like smoke, meeting that terrible blade wind. With a clap, at almost the same time, the rolling pin and the wooden board collided. Both sides' blade winds and sword chi twisted together, their intentions clashing as well. The next moment, Murong's hair floated as if it were water plants in water, and he flicked the wooden board upwards. With that flick, he unleashed the swirling sword intent of 7 layers of spring rain. While Duan Yun drifted up, like a paper kite, his left fist clenched, and 12 of the 16 strange fist techniques were launched in a row. The fist technique and 7 layers of spring rain clashed, and as the fist intent elevated, it gradually gained the upper hand. The next second, Murong started to twist his hips. He liked to move on the ground and had a habit of twisting his hips, so he had long mastered the swimming body skills. Duan Yun, on the other hand, speeded up his punches, launching relentless attacks. Duan Yun's room was rather cramped, both were undercover and couldn't reveal themselves, so they used more technique and less force. Otherwise, with their level of true chi, not just Duan Yun's room, but even the hillside next door would burst instantly. Thus, for a moment, the situation in the room was quite bizarre. They saw each other, one with a rolling pin, the other with a broken wooden board, one twisting his hips quickly, the other punching fast from afar. It resembled a dance. Key was that their intense fight was silent. Other than the flying dust, nothing was disturbed, like a soundless mime show. The scene even seemed a bit comical, but only the two in the midst knew the terror within. After all, one was the green blade demon wishing to make the other harbor endless resentment and turn green. The other a young hero Duan with a heroic spirit wanting to leave the other in heroic melancholy and become a hero. Midway through, both felt the other's intentions penetrating into their bodies, but then immediately repelled them. Particularly Murong, despite currently being at the peak of his green state, compared to old demon Duan's mastery of both sword and saber and aggressive fist intent, ultimately fell short relying solely on saber technique and movement skills. For a moment, he felt this grudge was endless, and he also wanted to be a hero. But he was a hero all along. No, the most terrifying thing was that the melancholic fist intent directly reached his heart, adding insult to injury to his resentful state. He felt, going on like this, death would be better. After all, be it his sister or the female sword fairy, they caused nothing but heartache. heartache as pitiful as lying beneath a bed, like a tragic clown. He would never be able to have a sweet romance in his lifetime again. What he pursued all his life, he just couldn't attain. For a moment, the miserably and grievously sad him even thought of writing a big, tragic character on his thigh. Morong realized it was Duan Yun's fist intent causing this, but it was like floodwater breaching a dam, too late to stop. Just when his intention was about to be destroyed, planning to inscribe on his leg, with a whoosh, the wooden board in his hand and Duan Yun's rolling pin shattered at the same time. Morong suddenly woke up, gasping for air. That was a close call, a real close call. He had almost carved tragic and forever inferior to young hero Duan on his leg, thankfully. It was over. But at that moment, Duan Yun was still eagerly excited, his punching resembling a dance at a rave. "We can continue without weapons," Duan Yun said excitedly. That instant, Morong turned around, his back to Duan Yun. "It's too late. We have to guard the gate tomorrow, and I haven't even brushed my teeth. All I can say is, you're indeed not bad." Saying so, he left, turning his back to Duan Yun. Duan Yun watched his carefree departing figure and muttered, "I got showboated by him after all." The moment he returned to his room, Morong closed the door with a snap of his fingers and took deep breaths. That was a close call, a real close call. He had just been too impulsive to provoke old demon Duan willingly. Chapter 242. But then, thinking of everything that had just happened in the room, Morong's eyes suddenly became unfocused. What's there to be afraid of? Worst comes to worst, I'll just die. I'd be better off dead than living like this. He lay on the bed, recalling the agonizing experience beneath it, recalling his sister Feng Linger's disgust towards him and her infatuation with Duan Yun. Remembering their collective shivering, the sword intent and the greenery on his head were growing again. Tears welled up in Morong's eyes. He knew that if this sword intent continued to grow like this, sooner or later, he would be able to take down old demon Duan. "Duan Yun, I have come to understand the true essence of continual strength. But what about you? Can you keep getting stronger too?" However, he had to admit that old demon Duan was just too twisted. He almost succumbed under his sword chi and fist intent. The thought of having words carved into his legs still terrified him. I'll only challenge old demon Duan again once my sword intent has reached a new level. Endless resentment blade, grow stronger for me." Morong continued to reminisce about his tragic past, tempering his sword intent through pain. In the room, Duan Yun also couldn't help but wipe off some cold sweat. He pinched his right hand into a sword finger, and with a flick, a green streak of sword chi shot out, puncturing a hole in the ground. Morong's sword chi was indeed venomous. It even affected his state of mind just now. Fortunately, he knew a move, Poison Force Sword Finger, and had held off the invasion of the green poison. Morong demon is really too twisted. If there's a next time, I'll need to find a wider space to unleash my big move. Knock the scoundrel to the ground, hit his acupoints hard, and not give him any chance to strike back. Young hero Duan summarized his experience, contemplating. Afterward, Duan Yun and Morong gradually got used to the janitorial life. Sometimes Duan Yun was quite busy. After all, a janitor not only has to watch the door, but also sweep, do laundry, and treat the female cultivators of the Chongling sect. It was here he even felt like he was reliving the times he was squeezed by his boss in his previous life as a corporate slave. Morong was also very busy. At night, he was busy enhancing his green sword intent and had to make sure it was hidden in his hair before dawn. Of course, he also had to occasionally eavesdrop outside old demon Duan's door to hear him treating the female sword cultivators. So his busyness was understandable. Growing stronger comes with a price. At Guanyin Monastery, 2 female disciples of the Chongling sect knelt before the Guanyin statue. Behind them stood sect master Gushue wearing a mask, who spoke indifferently. "You fail to suppress your desires because your hearts are not at peace. An unsettled heart is an insincere heart. Repent sincerely before Goddess Guanyin, and you will find peace." The 2 disciples of the Chongling sect reverently picked up incense sticks from the table, lit them, and inserted them after bowing, then began to meditate and repent. Smoke spiraled up within the hall, everything turning dreamlike. The two women sat there, gazing at the Guanyin statue with even greater solemnity in their eyes. Within the curling smoke, they faintly felt as if the towering statue of Guanyin had come to life, looking at them with a face full of mercy. Gradually, as the repentance deepened, their eyes also started to lose focus. The two of them did not notice that at this moment, their sect master was close to their heads, absorbing something. Her breath mixed with the monastery's incense smoke, blurring the identities of the three people for a time. Half an hour later, with the snap of fingers, the two female disciples' eyes snapped open. They found to their joy that the previously uncontrollable desires had significantly diminished. They quickly thanked their master, and Gushue, still wearing the mask, mysteriously said, "What you should be thankful for is Goddess Guanyin." "Yes, yes." After thanking Goddess Guanyin again, they left the hall. Once the disciples left, the hall doors shut tight. The lamps went out, plunging everything into silence and darkness. Suddenly, the figure of Gushue seated before the statue flickered, moving near the head of the Guanyin statue. Her whole being lightly pressed against the head of Guanyin, eerily matching her mouth to the statue. In the dim light, the scene for a moment seemed eerie and terrifying. The breath, faint and mist-like, entered the lips of the Guanyin statue. This continued for the time it takes an incense stick to burn before Gushue slowly descended. Even with a mask on her face, one could see her ears and neck were flushed, as if the Guanyin statue could genuinely satisfy her desires. Moments later, the Guanyin statue let out a sigh. Today there was finally a bit of joy in my meditation, but the true chi of those disciples from the previous days had no flavor at all. Gushue sat there, eyes burning with intensity as she stared at the Guanyin statue and said, "I've checked. Those disciples have not been slacking in their cultivation. The three disciples who went out to receive guests, it's about time for one of them to return, only they are pure enough," said the Guanyin statue. Gushue somberly said, "I will have them return. 3 consecutive disciples lack the flavor of Zen. Have you been somewhat negligent in your discipline?" Gushue appeared somewhat aggrieved and said, "I have specially investigated those people. Their cultivation has not slackened, but according to confidants, their temperaments have changed." "What kind of change?" the Guanyin statue inquired. "They have become arrogant, dismissive of everything, or in other words, disdainful." "Disdainful?" "Yes, disdainful. There's one disciple under you with such a temperament. Yu Zhenjin is indeed like that. I remember she doesn't eat fish or meat." "That's right. With such an unruly child, could it be her doing?" Gushue spoke. "She doesn't have that capability." At this moment, Gushue's tone was no longer one of superiority. Instead, it carried a woman's sense of jealousy. "If she is so useless to me, you should eliminate her. But Yu Zhenjin is the only one inside the sect who has had the fortune to comprehend the ancestors' marvelous cultivation technique, a technique I have yet to witness in its entirety." "As a sect master, you lack that cultivation technique?" the Guanyin statue asked. Gushue remained silent. "I understand. However, no matter what, you must not ruin our grand plan. You must know, I can only rely on you now." Hearing the words of the Guanyin statue, Gushue's eyes became even more fervent behind her mask. "I am well aware. I will thoroughly investigate the issue of the disciples' changing temperaments." Afterward, the Guanyin statue said no more. Nighttime, Duan Yun lay in bed resting. These days of hard work had left him feeling somewhat fatigued. These women of the Chongling sect are truly not easy to subdue, no, rather to heal. Especially a few of them, acting as though they wanted to bite him, their true chi also felt biting. However, with a medical practitioner's compassionate heart, seeing each and every one of these female sword cultivators trapped in a fog of desire getting healed and returning to purity through his efforts gave him a strong sense of achievement. The sense of accomplishment probably felt the same as persuading a courtesan to reform. Tonight had reached midnight, and no female cultivator from the Chongling sect had come to find him. It seemed he could rest. But just then, he suddenly realized someone was coming. Could it be? Even at this late hour, someone is sneaking around? Tap tap. The door was gently knocked upon, and before Duan Yun could respond, the latch rattled, and the person outside actually let themselves in. The visitor wore a high ponytail, beautiful yet domineering. It was Yu Jinjin. Duan Yun, upon seeing her, commented, "You? Have you become so impolite nowadays? This is like barging into someone's chamber in the middle of the night." Yu Jinjin looked at him and retorted, "Do you think this lady wishes to come to this awful place in the dead of night? Master is investigating you. You must hurry and leave." "Investigating me? I, Su Xian, am just a doorman, sweeping, washing, and saving people. If she's investigating me, she should give me a raise." Duan Yun responded with a righteous air. Yu Jinjin sighed and said, "Your medical skills are truly impressive. You've dealt with illnesses even the divine doctor couldn't cure, but the Chongling sect is not so simple. Staying could be dangerous." "I'm not afraid," replied Duan Yun. Yu Jinjin looked at Duan Yun with her slightly myopic, beautiful eyes. "Why risk your life so recklessly? Even if you fancy me, there's no need to take such risks and lose your life. Besides, no matter how much you admire me, I won't accept you. I am a natural-born female sword cultivator, destined to be in love with my sword for life. I won't entertain such thoughts about a doctor." Duan Yun, "No matter what you say, it's pointless. My advice is to give up sooner." Yu Jinjin interrupted him. Hearing this, Duan Yun clenched his fists tight. What kind of disdainful woman is this? I'm merely engrossed in the healing of your sick fellow sect members. Right, you better pack up quickly. You may not want to go, but you have to leave. Don't force me to knock you out and take you away by force," Yu Jinjin said with a domineering look on her face. At that moment, Duan Yun simply adopted a roguelike demeanor. "I won't leave. If you want to force me to go, you can try." Yu Jinjin sighed. "I've barely spoken a few words with you. Why are you so deeply mired?" Hearing this, Duan Yun's forehead vein throbbed. "Even if you don't take me away by force today, I want to spank your disdainful behind." Chapter 243. He who understands the times is a great man. Seeing Duan Yun's obstinate and self-obsessed demeanor, refusing to leave, Yu Jinjin sighed and struck out in an instant. She used a finger technique, a standard acupoint targeting finger technique, attacking Duan Yun's sleep acupoint like lightning. However, almost at the same moment, Duan Yun's fingers also struck out. With a thud, their fingertips collided, sending ripples through the air. Yu Jinjin had already noticed that Duan Yun's true qi was strong, so she didn't withhold much strength, but she didn't expect him to counter her finger strike so effortlessly. What came next was even more unexpected. In an instant, his finger strength weirdly penetrated her body, causing trembling within. A strange sensation rushed to her head. Without any hesitation, she groaned, clenched her legs tightly, relying on her strong will to prevent any mishaps. Before Yu Jinjin could catch her breath, the Duan Yun on the bed had already flipped agilely to stand, leaving a trail of afterimages and moved behind her. With a smack, her back acupoints were hit, and she was pushed down onto the bed. Just as she thought to turn around to counterattack and use her true qi to break free from the acupoints, Duan Yun pressed down on her body and sealed 2 more of her acupoints. "Do you submit?" Duan Yun asked. Yu Jinjin's forehead bulged with veins as she said, "You are shameless, perverted, ambushing. Even if you shamelessly invade my body like this, you will not gain my—" Her words were cut off with 2 crisp slaps. Duan Yun smacked her bottom hard. He liked peace and was professional at enduring, but he could not hold back this time. At that moment, Yu Jinjin felt like her legs and pants were about to tear. "Do you submit?" Duan Yun asked again. "You ambushing villain. Even if you torment me to tears, I will not be moved by you." 2 more slaps echoed. "It seems I need to teach you a lesson for you to act properly." Saying this, Duan Yun's palm turned into a sword finger, ready to strike. Almost at the same moment, a humiliated voice from Yu Zhenjin rang out, "I submit! You are indeed wise." Duan Yun looked at her prone figure and remarked, "What exactly are you doing here?" Yu Zhenjin, her face flushed, could not help but ask. She was the honored senior sister of the Chongling sect. Even the elders had to show her some respect. When had she ever suffered such control and humiliation? Had it not been for not wanting to be looked down upon by this man, she might have already burst into tears. Although Duan Yun had quickly overpowered her with a few moves, Yu Zhenjin was still somewhat defiant. She thought he was just a doctor, at most one of those from the Jiangzhong sect who also cultivated true qi, so she had only used 30% of her strength when she struck. But she did not expect that a young and handsome doctor would possess such powerful and strange martial arts skills. Especially that bizarre finger strength, utterly unpredictable, making it too late for her to raise her energy to full strength to oppose him. Yes, she hadn't used a sword, and several of her special moves hadn't even been deployed. If she risked injury to forcefully break the acupoint and fiercely fight this shameless man, it was possible to gamble. But the cost was too high. She had originally come secretly to take Su Xian away, not wanting to alert her master. She had already noticed something odd in the Chongling sect and knew her situation was precarious. Getting injured now would just add insult to injury. Moreover, this ambushing scoundrel clearly wasn't too evil, merely wanting to win her body and heart, without truly harming her. At this time, choosing to yield was the right decision. Humph, for the sake of her sect, she was willing to sacrifice herself to feed the demon, barely managing to feign affection for this shameless villain. Wait, to feed the demon, isn't this man supposed to be a doctor? Yu Zhenjin also couldn't understand why she thought this way. At this moment, Duan Yun solemnly said, "Why? Naturally, to rescue your Chongling sect female cultivators from peril. The medical practitioner's compassionate heart. Whoever stops me from saving people, I will handle," Yu Zhenjin retorted. Since when do doctors have such good martial skills? Although she had underestimated her opponent, there weren't many who could immobilize her in the blink of an eye. Duan Yun seriously replied, "Doctors need even better martial skills. Otherwise tonight you would have taken me away. How then could I continue to treat and save people? Young hero Duan has such great love, not only wanting to save Morong's sister, but also to rescue all the female cultivators of the Chongling sect, turning those who entertain into the upright, and their untouched locked up. You must be more than just a doctor," Yu Zhenjin deduced. Duan Yun pondered. Of course, with the martial world being so chaotic, how could I only be a doctor? I occasionally also act as a young hero. Young hero? Duan, old demon Duan. Yu Zhenjin suddenly thought of something and exclaimed in terror. With a smack, another slap landed. "I said young hero. Does your Chongling sect not only like to blame me unfairly but also likes to slander?" Duan Yun said with a dark face. Yu Zhenjin's eyes glazed over. "I should have known it was you, young and handsome, entering the martial world under the guise of a doctor, liking to play the young hero, preferring beautiful women like me, imprisoning them in dungeons. First, I'm clarifying, I'm not like them. I will not yield." Saying this, her gaze regained the domineering look of the senior sister. Seeing this gaze, Duan Yun thought of someone. The mother of Feng Linger, the purple-gown dragon queen. This one, once grown up, might be another dragon queen. Duan Yun momentarily was at a loss for words. This rumor is getting more absurd by the minute. I was just practicing medicine and saving people in a dungeon. When did it turn into imprisoning and torturing beauties? Chapter 244. Where is your cellar this time? Yu Zhenjin asked. Don't even mention it. Guarding the door every day? Sweeping, washing clothes, and treating illnesses. I barely have any free time and only manage to dig a hole, Duan Yun complained. Yu Zhenjin looked at Duan Yun with a wary face. This guy really dug a cellar. Let me go first, Yu Zhenjin said. Seeing no reaction from Duan Yun, she maintained the dignified posture of a senior sister disciple, but could only continue through gritted teeth. I'll obey you. I have already submitted to you. Duan Yun stopped pressing her but didn't immediately release her acupoints. asking, "Are you letting me go because your master is investigating me?" "Yes. I don't hold past grudges, saving you female cultivators from the path of carnal desires, preventing your downfall, both publicly and privately. My actions are akin to those of a medical practitioner's compassionate heart. You should thank me instead." "Why would I be afraid of being investigated?" Duan Yun said. If it weren't for the fact that Morong's sister was facing a catastrophe here, and it aroused in him a strong desire to heal and save people during the treatment process, he would not even bother with these people from the Chongling sect. After all, young hero Duan's schedule is incredibly packed. It's worth mentioning, the sensation of converting fallen female sword immortals to decency, and making lost female sword immortals innocent again, brings him a strong feeling of exhilaration, almost addictive. Still, it boils down to Morong being too weak. He's treated at least a few dozen female cultivators from Chongling sect, yet he still hasn't found any trace of his sister. The legend that his sister would develop feelings for him instantly, becoming unable to extricate herself, simply did not occur. Instead, there's an ongoing stream of events happening here. Green Blade Demon is really no good. Right now, Morong is cultivating with tears, completely unaware of what happened here. Facing Duan Yun's question, Yu Zhenjin said, "The situation in the Chongling sect is more complicated than you can imagine. If you want to know the answer, let me go back, and come find me at my place at 3 in the morning tomorrow." Duan Yun thought for a moment and then unlocked her acupoints. Just as Yu Zhenjin initially said, she felt a strange sense of affection towards him which bred closeness, and he felt something similar. From the first moment he saw her, he felt that she attracted him in some way, charmed him. It definitely wasn't just about her beauty. There was something else. Thinking that he also practiced 12 layers of spring rain, Duan Yun couldn't help but secretly wonder, could she possibly be my sister? He hadn't followed Shadowing home to confirm their relationship yet, something he couldn't overlook. Yu Zhenjin tidied her clothes and once again became the icily pure, domineering senior sister sword fairy. She gave Duan Yun a glance and said, "Tomorrow night at 3, come if you dare." Saying this, she left. On her way, Yu Zhenjin thought about everything that just happened, her face alternating between flushing and turning pale, mixed with a sense of excitement. So, feeding the demon with one's body feels like this. The gatekeeper, Su Xian, is too envious of her beauty. Like old demon Duan, her actions are akin to feeding a demon or negotiating with a tiger. But at this time, she didn't have much choice, and perhaps there was a chance to break through. With old demon Duan's power, maybe the Chongling sect could still find a turning point. Yes, several senior sisters had already gone out to meet clients, and the other junior sisters were progressively becoming uncontrollable. She couldn't just stand by and watch other sisters fall too. Could she? At night, Duan Yun lay in his bed, recalling Shen Ying and Yu Zhenjin's allure, sinking into deep thought. His old man likely had no issues. After all, during his lifetime, he hadn't even managed to visit the dream city of Wangchun City. Could it be that Shen Ying and Yu Zhenjin's mother had been to Yun State passing by Lishui City, and just so happened to contract a gynecological disease, and just so happened to develop feelings for his old man, and just so happened to accidentally get pregnant? That was too many coincidences. Meanwhile, Morong was also lost in painful contemplation. He had been here acting as a gatekeeper for several days now, his buttocks turning sore, occasionally intentionally passing by those Chongling sect female cultivators, but still no one came looking for him. While Duan Yun's place was bustling like a market, his gate was deserted, which was outrageous. Does this mean he doesn't have a sister here? Actually, it was good news that his sister wasn't experiencing a calamity, arguably the best news. But Morong felt vaguely disappointed, dejected. He reminisced about the glory and beauty of the past, the times when he had developed mutual affection with his sister. Although those beautiful moments ultimately ended in miserable karmic entanglements, at least there had been that period of beauty. But this time, even that bit of glory and beauty was missing. Thinking of the bustling scene at Duan Yun's gate, hearing the sounds of Duan Yun treating people from outside, Morong couldn't help but, "Bless them. I hope they all turn out to be your real sisters," At night, the Chongling sect was tranquil. Except for the lanterns occasionally hanging under the eaves and the stone lamps on the ground emitting dim yellow light, everywhere else was engulfed in darkness. Gatekeeper Duan Yun walked through the darkness, sometimes clinging to the walls like a gecko, at other times flying over the walls like a bat. During this time, through the mouths of the Chongling sect female cultivators, he had also gathered quite a bit of information. At least the map of Chongling sect was taking shape now. Yu Xinzhen's residence was on the western side of the Chongling sect. It required circling around that lake first. In the night, the lake inside the sect was darkness itself, without a single light, only the sky's reflection on the water, refracting a dim shimmer. Duan Yun walked by the lake, his footsteps silent. At this moment, a group of vibrant carp was swimming along the dried lotus leaves by the lake. Seeing Duan Yun, the fish did not get frightened but instead gathered towards him. Duan Yun knew that many ornamental fish had the habit of gathering when they saw humans, which often meant that someone would feed them. But this lake, connected to the bigger outer lake, should naturally contain fish born there, which would easily be startled. Unfortunately, these carp were not. They did not exhibit any behavior of waiting to be fed, aggressively opening their mouths at the surface of the water. Instead, they were quite calm. To Duan Yun, it felt as if they were quietly observing him, much like sending off the dead at a funeral. Ahead, there was already a light. Beneath the light was a woman who seemed listless. She was also a caretaker. Duan Yun knew that in places approaching the core area of the Chongling sect, the caretakers were usually sect disciples taking turns. Staying hidden, Duan Yun even felt that this female caretaker seemed a bit familiar. She must be one of the female cultivators he had treated in the past few days. Due to her relatively ordinary appearance, he did not have a deep impression. Duan Yun easily bypassed her and continued further. When this stone path came to an end, a fan-shaped red gate appeared before him. This was Yu Xinzhen's residence. Duan Yun looked around and with a light leap, jumped over the courtyard wall. This was a small courtyard with a small area of plum trees. At this time of the season, the plum trees had not yet bloomed, only stretching their branches outwards. But the tiled house within the courtyard was silent and dark. Duan Yun approached the window and tapped on it, 3 hard knocks, followed by 3 soft. Moments later, Yu Xinzhen's voice sounded faintly. "The door isn't locked. Just come in by yourself." As he entered, he promptly shut the door. Honestly, it all seemed like a secret affair in the middle of the night. Inside, there was still no light, somewhat dim. "You are late," said Yu Xinzhen. "I was delayed because 2 of your junior sisters came tonight," Duan Yun replied. "Come over here," Yu Xinzhen said. At this time, Yu Xinzhen rose from the bed, lifted a board on the inner side, revealing a pitch-dark opening. "If you want to know more, follow me." Saying this, she crawled into the hole. Duan Yun raised his eyebrows and followed her down. The instant they entered, the board closed up. Inside it was pitch dark, and Duan Yun's breaking body sword energy was ready to strike. The next moment, a burst of firelight lit up, illuminating Yu Xinzhen's beautiful face. "Where is this?" Duan Yun asked in confusion. "A cellar," Yu Xinzhen replied. "You like digging cellars too?" As Duan Yun looked at the considerable size of the cellar, he couldn't help but exclaim. Yu Xinzhen retorted, "I dig cellars for purposes other than your twisted uses. Don't let your thoughts run wild in the cellar. No thinking either, that would also be twisted," Yu Xinzhen cautioned. Seeing Duan Yun with a grim face, she changed her tone. "Alas, think if you can't help it. Who could blame her for being so beautiful?" Duan Yun, speechless, said, "Is the secret you want to tell me inside this cellar?" "Yes, you will know very soon." Saying that, Yu Xinzhen, holding a lantern, squeezed into a narrow passage with her buttocks perked up. Duan Yun quickly followed. Chapter 245. The Secret Under the Bed, Young Hero's Killing Intent. In the pitch-dark cellar passage, the silhouette of Yu Xinzhen was outlined. Duan Yun followed behind. Visible to the naked eye, compared to the well-organized cellar previously, This passage seemed rather rough and crude. Some sections of the road were irregular, uneven, and at the narrowest point. After a while, the space became a bit more spacious. Duan Yun could also feel that it was much damper here, and roots could be seen in the soil. If he guessed correctly, there should be a forest above. Ahead, the passage had reached its end. Yu Jinjin put down the lantern and sat down. Duan Yun sat down as well, looked around, and didn't find anything special. Could there be secrets of the Chongling sect here? Both sitting in this dim and enclosed environment, facing each other, there was still that strange sense of goodwill. Following a somewhat unfamiliar woman into a strange hole was indeed a rather novel experience. Had he not been the dual masters of sword and saber now, he definitely wouldn't have done this. Ever since encountering the Red Building women, who liked to deceive, upon his first venture into the martial world, Duan Yun, as a boy, had long learned to protect himself. At this moment, Yu Jinjin fumbled in the cave, opened a wooden stopper hidden in the mud, and revealed a hole about the size of a glutinous rice ball. She listened for a moment and then pointed to the hole, gesturing Duan Yun to listen. Duan Yun didn't make any sound and put his ear to the hole. Only now did he realize that a metal pipe was buried here, through which the voice of a woman slowly drifted from inside. It was hard to determine the age of this woman's voice, but overall, she seemed not to be young. Shortly afterward, another voice, indistinct whether male or female, sounded. These two voices talked back and forth, as if they were carrying out some kind of communication. The metal pipe might amplify the sound, but likely due to some distance, Duan Yun couldn't hear what they were saying. Could this be related to the secrets of the Chongling sect? At this time, Yu Jinjin resealed the wooden stopper, whispered, "What did you just hear?" "Two people talking," Duan Yun said. "Guanyin Monastery above has always been solely inhabited by my master, but at some point, she began to talk to someone every night at the third watch. I can't discern the voice, whether it's a man or a woman. For a while, I even suspected she had gone mad and was talking to herself," Yu Jinjin said softly. In this gloomy environment, it seemed as if she was telling a ghost story. Duan Yun asked, "How did you discover this?" Yu Jinjin replied, "I had just learned a certain earthwork skill, and thus I started practicing in this ready-made cellar." Seeing Duan Yun looking at her with a strange expression, she hurriedly explained, "I'm not like your perverted kind, digging cellars not to confine women like me, but purely to practice my skill. As I practiced, I dug up to this bamboo grove area. Seeing these bamboo roots, I knew that I was not far from my master's residence. In fact, ever since the Chongling sect became strange and after she built the Guanyin Monastery, she rarely showed up. So, I suspected that she might also have issues. I decided to do it thoroughly, dug this tunnel to near her monastery, and created this passage to listen to her, and indeed found something wrong." Hearing her say this, Duan Yun couldn't help but feel that she indeed had the potential to rebel against her mentor. Duan Yun pondered, "Can you hear what they are saying?" Yu Jinjin shook her head. "Why don't you get closer to listen?" Duan Yun asked. Yu Jinjin quickly shook her head. "No way, it's already very close to that monastery. If this tunnel is dug any further, my master will definitely discover it." Duan Yun remarked, "Then it seems your earthwork skill is not up to par." As a semi-expert in digging tunnels, Duan Yun knew how to silently continue digging. His beaming divine skill operating all over his body, he stretched out his hand, and the soil in front of him silently covered his entire body. Under Yu Jinjin's astonished gaze, he had already turned into a mudman, moving the soil outward. Walking a distance with a punch of his fist, the soil sticking to his body clung like water to the tunnel walls. Then he returned to being a mudman. Near the end of the tunnel close to the monastery, he made almost no noise, and the soil he pasted was used to compact the tunnel walls on the other side. The entire process was smooth and seamless, leaving Yu Jinjin unable to help but wonder if he had the potential to actually dig through to the outside of the Chongling sect. Just how many women have you imprisoned to be so skilled at digging? In less than half an hour, with a thud, as the soil ahead was absorbed by Duan Yun, Suddenly more space appeared in front. Duan Yun and Yu Jinjin were both startled. Had they dug into someone else's tunnel? This tunnel was obviously much more refined than what Yu Jinjin had dug, with rock bars and wooden boards compacting at intervals, and stone lamps on the ground. Only a few stone lamps were lit, but it wasn't so dark that the entire tunnel was obscured. At this point, Yu Jinjin had skillfully extinguished her wind lamp. She and Duan Yun stood closely together, looking solemn. Was there such a tunnel under Guanyin Monastery? Unexpectedly, on her first time with old demon Duan, she made such a startling discovery. Afterward, the two of them began to delve deeper into the cave, wanting to see what mysteries lay hidden here. However, to avoid startling any guards and also worried about potential traps, they didn't move fast. Chapter 246. There was clearly no one in front, yet the two of them moved stealthily, occasionally crouching as they moved forward. At this moment, Yu Jinjin suddenly stopped moving. She pressed herself against the wall of the tunnel, listening intently. Duan Yun did the same, straining his ears to listen. Indeed, it was that conversation again. But here, the dialogue became clearer and more distinct. Although Duan Yun couldn't completely make out what they were saying, he could sense a change in tone. Yes, here he realized this wasn't a case of one person's split personality speaking to themselves, but it sounded more like a couple. Because from the tone, he could detect a hint of lust. The two people in the tunnel couldn't see the scene inside the temple's main hall. Or rather, even if they were in the main hall now, they might not notice what was happening immediately. Because the entire hall was dark at this time, and only if you carefully followed the sounds and observed, would you notice that something unusual was happening at the position of Guanyin's head. Qiongling sect master Guxue was standing upside down, mouth to mouth with the Guanyin statue. Unlike last time, which involved transferring true qi, this appeared more like the intimacy between lovers, and she couldn't help but let out a gasp. I can't hold back any longer, Guxue said. It's not time yet, please restrain yourself, sect master. Another androgynous voice sounded. No, tonight. I must be with you until dawn. Guxue gasped heavily. At this moment, she had lost all semblance of a sect master's aloof demeanor and instead resembled a woman whose carnal desires were uncontrollable. Some women, past a certain age, tend to have even more primal desires that are hard to control. I've done so much for you. What's wrong with making an exception this one time? Guxue wore a mask, and although her expression was invisible, one could infer her intense emotions from it. All right, just this once. The voice sighed. I knew you care for me the most, Guxue exclaimed excitedly. At this moment, she seemed like a little girl who had just received candy, almost hopping with excitement. Then there was a click, like the sound of a mechanism being activated. The mouth of the Guanyin statue opened, revealing a pitch-black hole, into which Guxue swiftly dove. The next moment, the mouth of the statue closed, and the surroundings returned to silence, as if Guxue had been swallowed by the Guanyin statue. The moment they heard the sound of the mechanism, Duan Yun and Yu Jinjin had already started retreating. Immediately afterward, they realized someone was coming down. At this time, they wanted to return the way they came, but discovered that the footsteps were right behind them. The joined part of the dugout tunnel was very narrow, and returning rashly might easily lead to being discovered and expose the tunnel breach. So, the two simply proceeded lightly in one direction, and after turning two corners, they unexpectedly discovered a room in the tunnel. The door to the room wasn't locked, and there was still a light burning inside. From the outside, the room appeared plain, but the interior was surprisingly luxurious. Grape wine and nightlight cups shone brightly on the table. A soft, thick red fur blanket covered the floor, embroidered with startling rose patterns. And the most eye-catching thing was the large bed. It looked very comfortable to lie on. Unfortunately, the footsteps behind were drawing near, and they had no chance to enjoy this big bed. Duan Yun made a quick decision, ushering Yu Jinjin with a light sliding tackle under the bed. The darkness under the bed enveloped them both, adding a bit of security. Simultaneously, both of them held their breath, as if they had turned into stones. The saying goes, without venturing into a tiger's den, how can one obtain the tiger's cubs? They needed to be in places like this to uncover the secrets of the Chongling sect master. At this time, the footsteps were very close, carrying an indescribable pressure, adding to the thrill. The door squeaked open at that moment. Through the glow, Duan Yun and Yu Jinjin could see two pairs of feet. A pair of woman's feet, wearing red flower-patterned shoes, and a pair of man's feet, in black boots. The moment they entered the room, the man and woman took off their shoes, revealing pale feet. The next moment, the two under the bed felt it sink slightly, and the two pairs of feet vanished from view. Sect Master, you're really provocative today. Provocative indeed. Sounds of rustling clothes came from above, making it clear what the two were doing. Duan Yun and Yu Jinjin were momentarily speechless. Yu Jinjin's master, Gu Xue, was at least in her 50s or 60s, and here she was, playing the role of a young seductress. This experience under the bed was quite novel for Duan Yun, as usually he would be on top with the Morong brothers below. Fate had turned, and now it was his turn to be under a bed, while his master was busy. Through the voices and movements of the bed above, it was evident that the actions between the man and woman were fierce. Yu Jinjin and Duan Yun lay very close to each other, both looking at each other and listening to the sounds above, both slightly embarrassed. Especially Yu Jinjin, when the actions above reached their highest intensity, her normally dignified master even uttered some vulgar language, making her cheeks flush red. Master, must you be so drastically different? Afterwards, the soft big bed gradually returned to stillness. Suffering from the pressure of the bed plank, Duan Yun and Yu Jinjin instinctively wanted to breathe a sigh of relief, but they held back. Gu Xue, as a sect master, was a master among masters, and this man, being able to be together with Gu Xue and even taking the initiative, must also be genuinely skilled. Any slight careless movement from them now could potentially reveal their presence. Chapter 247. Yes, they had yet to probe into the most core secret. The most core secret of the Chongling sect was definitely not that sect master Gu Xue was a deceitful bitch, secretly keeping a lover. At this moment, the man spoke up. About the incident with True Qi last time, have you found any clues? Some clues indeed. These disciples, reportedly they all left their rooms at different times during the night, said Gu Xue. Leaving their rooms in the dead of night, doing what? At this moment, Gu Xue's voice took on a seductive tone. What else could they be doing? Perhaps they are shamelessly sneaking off to steal men. The man said, that's not right. How is it not right? If they've gone to the extent of stealing men, then their desires must be high. But why is the true Qi unsavory, and even comes off as underwhelming? Said the man. Could it be possible that the men they're stealing are completely satisfying them? Gu Xue suggested. How could that be possible? A woman who has consumed love fish and practiced this heart sutra, once reaching that stage, is forever insatiable. How could such a man exist in this world? Even the heavenly king, with a lower body said to be able to spin wheels, couldn't do it. The man retorted. Maybe the man they're stealing from really can do it? You can't, doesn't mean others can't. At this time, Yu Jinjin couldn't help but sneak a glance at Duan Yun's crotch area. From here, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She then noticed that Duan Yun was watching her, and her face turned even redder. That statement clearly provoked the man's dissatisfaction, causing Gu Xue in bed to let out a somewhat pained cry. Then the man spoke up. This matter must be thoroughly investigated, and that eldest disciple of yours, Yu Jinjin, sooner or later, she will be a variable. I do not wish this variable to exist. Gu Xue was silent for a while before saying, what do you propose we do? She seems to be a promising seed. Directly use soul-subduing 9 techniques to control her mind. Force her to consume the fish and cultivate, the man said. But her constitution is special. Plus she has received the ancestors' true teachings. I'm afraid soul-subduing 9 techniques might not be able to control her, Gu Xue said. If it doesn't work, then just kill her. You should know how important these people of the Chongling sect are to us. Gu Xue, remaining silent, replied, fine, I'll listen to you. Treating the founder's heritage this way, if the founder knew, they would probably die with their eyes wide open. They died with their eyes still open. What does it have to do with us? Aren't you willing to follow me for the rest of your life? Okay, as you wish. When are you planning to make a move? The day after tomorrow night. Let's directly raid that girl. Okay. Under the bed, Duan Yun and Yu Xinjin heard their conversation, a murderous look appearing in their eyes. Without needing to speak, they understood each other's intention. When those two adulterers come to attack, that will be the time for her, Yu Xinjin, to righteously destroy her master, and for him, young hero Duan, to act for heaven. Duan Yun was already considering, why wait? Let's just settle it now. He, young hero Duan, did not have the habit of postponing killing until the next day, especially since they were right below the bed. A sudden attack had a great chance of seizing the initiative. Yu Xinjin obviously knew old demon Duan's style too. She quickly winked at him, signaling him not to be rash. Yes, this was after all Gushua's secret chamber and hidden passage. Their turf. There might be traps or hidden mechanisms in place. If their strike wasn't deadly, they could fall into a passive situation. Duan Yun looked at this drag, and for now held back. Yoshi might as well let these two evil demons above their heads live a little longer. Yes, rather than killing the opponents now, better find an opportunity to properly torment and squeeze these two evil demons, extract their secrets and worth before killing them. Only then would it truly reflect the cost efficiency of chivalry and righteousness. Chapter 248. What to do? Only to kill. The two people on the bed struggled for a while before getting up. Duan Yun felt that Yu Xinjin's decision was somewhat reasonable. It was noticeable that, after a warm episode on the bed, not only did they show no signs of fatigue, but they actually seemed to gain strength. This is the same principle as Murong being more filled with sword intent after being pressed under the bed. Some people with strong desires perform better when their desires are released. The opponent already had the advantage of terrain and was a master. Rashly making a move, even for young hero Duan, was indeed uncertain of retaining the opponent. Afterwards, two pairs of feet reappeared in the line of sight. Sect Master Gushue and that mysterious man even poured themselves a glass of wine each, slowly savoring it. One has to admit this couple knew how to enjoy themselves. Later, the two of them slowly left. Moments later, Duan Yun and Yu Xinjin crawled out from under the bed. Neither of them expected such a fresh experience tonight, especially since they had actually heard some critical information. Who would have thought that the turmoil within Chongling sect was caused by a sect master? Clearly, Gushue and that mysterious man were practicing some kind of evil skill, which is what made these originally pure and noble female sword immortals unable to restrain their lust. As a sect master of a historic sect, Gushue did not hesitate to bring the entire Chongling sect into peril, which is simply incomprehensible. From Gushue's recent interaction with that man, it seems she did it all for him. What a supremely lovesick little goddess. As a sect master, to curry favor with her lover, she did not hesitate to turn all the members of her sect into brothel desire girls. Thinking of this, Duan Yun clenched his fists. Yu Xinjin also clenched her fists. Within the sect, very few ever oppose Gushue. To nearly all disciples, Master Gushue exhausts herself to save Chongling sect from the chaos of lust. A decisive white dew sword immortal, built a Zen monastery and cultivated character to suppress disciples' lust in order to save Chongling sect. But what about the reality? She treated the entire Chongling sect as a gift to please her lover, forcing her beloved disciples into prostitution, serving as nourishment for her lover's practice of evil skill. Duan Yun couldn't help but wonder just how incredibly handsome that mysterious man must be to bewitch Gushue, the sect master, to such a dizzying extent. Is there no limit to being handsome? At this point, the two of them could roughly speculate that perhaps the Jade Girl Heart Sutra was originally fine, but it became the Desire Woman Heart Sutra after being tampered by Gushue and her lover, or rather, it remained as the Jade Girl Heart Sutra, but changed due to the love fish mentioned in their conversation. Shadow Girl Yu Xinjin, who lacks awareness, might be connected to her unique constitution and her not consuming fish. Duan Yun recalled the fearless carps he encountered when he came to find Yu Jinjin earlier that night. Could those be the love fish? He noticed upon entering Chongling sect that this sect relied on water for survival, habitually consuming fish from the internal lake. This place was clearly not somewhere to stay long, so they planned to leave first. Duan Yun looked at the grape wine, his brow slightly raised. After all this, I too need to have a good drink. As a cellar enthusiast, he had to admit both this cellar and the underground cavern were very well constructed. Worth noting for reference. Or to say, if it were not too far from Yun's state and some items too bulky, he even felt the urge to pack and take these structural components back home. Who wouldn't want to own such a luxurious and comfortable cellar? Such a cellar should be used by young hero Duan for enjoyment, for chivalry, and for healing others to fully explain its value. In the hands of this adulterous couple, it was only used for sneaky affairs, truly a waste of resources. No way. Thinking of this, Duan Yun decided to take all valuable items from this cellar with him. Young hero Duan, who hates waste his entire life, must make the most out of these items. Afterwards, he and Yu Jinjin left the luxurious cellar. The dirt dug up before was also completely sealed using Biming divine skill by him. Not until they returned to Yu Jinjin's bed did the two heave a long sigh of relief. Tonight's experience was certainly extraordinary and crucial. The sky was gradually brightening. At this time, Yu Jinjin looked at Duan Yun and said, "You now know who caused the disaster in Chongling sect? Why haven't you left? Leave. Are you really willing to confront my master and that mysterious person for my sake?" Yu Jinjin asked worriedly. She had suspected something wrong with her master before, but now it seemed to be the worst scenario. Not only is her master not on their side, she even has a powerful and mysterious lover. Duan Yun clenched his fists tightly, explaining, "I've said many times, I'm not here for you." "Then for whom?" "There's no woman more beautiful than me in Chongling sect." Yu Jinjin looked at Duan Yun with her beautiful short-sighted eyes, puzzled. Morong eventually saw Yu Jinjin again. He appeared quite nervous, as he didn't even bother to groom or even brush his teeth before Duan Yun brought him before Yu Jinjin. "Are you here for his sister?" Yu Jinjin asked Duan Yun, puzzled. "Of course. Your sister is in Chongling sect?" Yu Jinjin said to Morong. Morong's eyes suddenly turned melancholic and said, "I thought there might be one, but now it seems unlikely." "Ah?" He and his half-sister share a peculiar bond, instantly developing an uncontrollable fondness upon meeting. He was worried about his sister being lost in Chongling sect, considering the situation there, so he brought me, this one in a million doctor, to save his sister. Chapter 249. Morong's eyes grew even more melancholic as he said, "I've been here for so many days, seen all the female disciples of the Chongling sect, and some even more than twice, yet not a single woman has taken a liking to me." Hearing this, both Duan Yun and Yu Jinjin cast sympathetic glances at him. Seeing the sympathetic look in Yu Jinjin's eyes, Morong almost burst into manly tears. "She looks at me this way because she has me in her heart," Yu Jinjin said. "Since his sister isn't here, why haven't you two left yet?" Saying this, she looked towards Duan Yun, puffing up her proud chest. Her meaning was clear. It's all because he met me halfway through and can't bear to leave me. Duan Yun began to recount, "Brother, last night when we explored the underground cellar, I discovered something." "What? You guys went into a cellar?" Morong's face turned green as he spoke. "It wasn't my cellar, it was hers. Right? I led her into it." As Duan Yun and Yu Jinjin explained, Morong's complexion grew even greener. Duan Yun gave up on explaining and said, "We found out that the reason why the female disciples of the Chongling sect have become desire girls is all because—" Duan Yun briefly shared last night's experiences with him. The more Morong listened, the brighter his eyes shone, and he spoke with frenzied tone. "No wonder none of the female cultivators of the Chongling sect took a liking to me. It turns out they've all been bewitched by that Gushua couple." Duan Yun asked, "So, what do you think we should do?" "Kill. Kill is the only way." Morong stated resolutely. Duanyun looked at Yu Zhenjin and said, "See, this is our young hero's resolve. Even though his sister isn't here, when faced with injustice, we must kill. Nobody can stop us from killing." At this moment, Morong projected all the grievances he had suffered during this period onto the Gushua couple. He had carefully counted 43 of the female sword immortals of the Chongling sect had sought out old demon Duan at midnight, but not a single one had looked for him. He, Morong, couldn't be at such a great disadvantage. It was all because the female sword immortals of the Chongling sect have been spellbound by that couple. Thus, his whole body surged with a killer intent, and his hair, turning green, began to flutter. Seeing his hair, Yu Zhenjin exclaimed in surprise, "Green hair!" Duanyun said, "He is my brother Morong. He's skilled with the saber." Yu Zhenjin suddenly thought of something and with a shocked face exclaimed, Green blade demon?" The Azure Dragon incident had already spread to Liezhou, which, apart from the fierce battles for the Azure Dragon, was also known for old demon Duan disguised as a doctor bringing harm to martial world people. And there was also another old demon that left an impression on people. That was the Green Blade Demon. Legends said the Green Blade Demon was adept at swaying hips, luring men, and if a man couldn't satisfy him, he would turn his hair green and give them the saber. Once struck by his green saber, if they couldn't bear to watch their beloved sleep with another person, they would painfully commit suicide. This saber technique was extremely perverse, on par with old demon Duan's ability to cause downfall, which was also why the Green Blade Demon had become noted. Yu Zhenjin, recalling the sight of Morong swaying his hips among the sect, felt a chill and couldn't help but distance herself further from Morong. Seeing her reaction, Morong hastened to explain, "The Green Blade Demon is actually a misinterpretation by the evil demon outsiders. No need to explain, you're also a hero," Yu Zhenjin said with a vigilant expression. She feared Duanyun, afraid that old demon Duan would lock her in the cellar, and using various methods, compel her to sink down to hell to possess her body and heart. She feared Green Blade Demon as well. Struck by his saber, she would just have to watch her beloved sleep with someone else. And that pain would also be unbearable, wouldn't it? Somehow, the beloved figure she imagined in her mind was Duan Yun's image. Damn it, old demon Duan didn't cast a demon seed in my Dao heart to possess me. Did he? In this small room, suddenly there were two old demons. And not just any old demons, but old demon Duan and Green Blade Demon. Truly a terrifying thought. At that moment, Duanyun looked at her and said, "You feel our heroic spirit, right? Rest assured, with us here, we will surely restore clarity to the Chongling sect." While his words were full of righteousness, they felt unnerving coming from two old demons. Yu Zhenjin even thought, what if these two old demons suddenly went mad? The Green Blade Demon making everyone in the Chongling sect suffer in green agony, while old demon Duan locked all the beautiful disciples in the cellar to toy with them. At that time, the Chongling sect would probably be more terrifying than hell itself. No, as the senior sister of the Chongling sect, she must prevent this from happening. She would offer herself to feed old demon Duan, to spare her fellow disciples from disaster. But to feed Green Blade Demon, that's impossible. She'd rather end her life. However, looking at the current situation, both Duanyun and the Morong brothers still appeared to be honorable knights. She couldn't help but recall the survival principle of old demons, mentioned by the storyteller. If he likes to play the role of a young hero, he should be treated as one. Yu Zhenjin couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Duan, young hero Rong, for saving our Chongling sect like this, I truly do not know how we could ever repay you." From beginning to end, she was looking at Duanyun. Duanyun nodded and said, "This act of gallantry certainly isn't free. If we help the Chongling sect to turn chaos into order, the expenses for our carriage here, as well as the benefits provided for our lodging, should be reimbursed. Naturally, I want to freely choose from the items in that cellar," Duanyun continued. "No problem. I also want to learn one of the cultivation techniques from your Chongling sect," Duanyun said thoughtfully. "However, our sect's techniques are traditionally transmitted only to women, not men. If men practice them, they might fear." Yu Jinjin suddenly realized, if old demon Duan can turn men into fallen women, what is there to fear about this? It is possible, Yu Jinjin said. The Chongling sect is strict about taking in disciples, but it is all relative. Over the past century, quite a few traitors have emerged, and our techniques have also leaked out. With the means of old demon Duan, if he wanted to obtain any cultivation technique, he could simply grab a few disciples and take them to the cellar to get it. Not everyone has her kind of willpower. In other words, these terms are not too harsh. As long as one can rescue the Chongling sect, now reduced to playthings of the Gushua couple, not to mention asking for one cultivation technique, even if it were 2, 3, or even if old demon Duan demanded her, she would accept. She knew that these 3 conditions were too simple. Old demon Duan must be seeking more. Sure enough, Duan Yun spoke again. Additionally, after this matter, you need to clarify to the world the rumors about your Chongling sect's sword immortal descending to the mortal world. It wasn't my doing. Furthermore, you must proclaim that I've healed you. Rest assured, I will also do my best to help you remove that poison of desire. Yu Jinjin nodded. There are no problems with that. Good. That'll be all. Prepare yourselves, and let's get to work. Duan Yun contemplated. Yu Jinjin blinked and said, These are all the conditions? Just these. Duan Yun nodded. Young hero Duan acts heroically because he yearns for a bit of heroic fame. He wanted more people to know how deep the misunderstandings about him were, and that he embodies the true medical practitioner's compassionate heart and heroic spirit. Upon hearing that these were the only conditions from Duan Yun, Yu Jinjin looked at his handsome face and felt somewhat disappointed for a moment. Ah, old demon Duan doesn't covet her? However, she quickly focused her attention on the matters to come. Cooperating with an evil demon is like asking a tiger for its skin, but it may also be the turning point for the Chongling sect. Indeed, if not for Duan Yun and the Morong brothers, the Chongling sect would face a dead end. The only reason she's been normal, until now, is because her master is still hopeful about the secret techniques she learned from their ancestor. Unfortunately, as of last night, her master has lost patience with her, influenced by her mysterious lover. For the sake of her lover, she wants to assimilate and remove herself from the picture. If it were before, she had no chance at all, not even a half. But now, with Duan Yun and Green Blade Demon, it is a gamble worth taking. Her master is terrifying, and her lover even more enigmatic. The evil skills they have painstakingly practiced might be even harder to combat. But old demon Duan and Green Blade Demon are not vegetarians either. If they sincerely intended to act for heaven, then they might stand a chance in the fight. That's the only way. As Green Blade Demon said, only by killing. Chapter 250. Playing the flute to captivate souls. It was a cool and refreshing night with the moon casting a water-like sheen. The Chongling sect was as tranquil as usual. Yu Jinjin's plum blossom courtyard, located in the deepest part of the lodgings, felt even more secluded. Yu Jinjin, Duan Yun, and the Morong brothers were lying in ambush inside, waiting for their prey to come to them. Yes, tonight they were the ones who would kill. Tonight was the night that Gushue and her wild man planned to deal with Yu Jinjin, a situation that could end up with Yu Jinjin being killed. But those who kill could also be killed themselves. Such was the simple truth of the martial world. As one of the rare, lucid ones in the Chongling sect, Yu Jinjin had little choice. Had she not overheard the conversation through a tunnel late at night, had not the 2 gatekeepers suddenly turned into 2 old demons, she would have died inexplicably at the hands of her shameless master tonight. On the bed was a straw-filled dummy, looking just like her asleep, and the twisted Morong brothers hid absurdly under the pitch-black bed. For many days now, he had found that lying under the bed allowed him to gather more powerful and effective saber strikes. He was the saber god beneath the bed. Mingyu had already dipped west, and dusk enveloped heaven and earth. It was now well past midnight, and in another hour or so, it would be dawn. But the 3 of them still hadn't waited for the arrival of Sect Master Gushue and her dog of a man. They were poised and relaxed at first, but prolonged waiting could sink one into fatigue. Yu Jinjin, perched atop a horizontal beam, couldn't help contemplating. Would her master not come tonight? Although she and Duan Yun had overheard their plans beneath the bed, plans are always subject to change. And beneath the bed, the Murong brother with green-dyed hair seemed to have fallen asleep. Given his past lazy streak, which had lasted almost 2 years, his perseverance tonight was a strong showing. Suddenly, the Murong brother under the bed opened his eyes. Though he had drifted into light sleep, his innate danger-sensing ability had jolted him awake. During his time lying in Yuju Villa, he could sense spiders and caterpillars, even predict when they would crawl onto him, despite lying motionless like a corpse. Now he awoke with a similar sensation. Not far from Yu Zhenjin's bed was a folding screen, and beneath it was a gap. From under the bed, the Murong brother could see an extra shoe at the doorway. It was an embroidered purple flower shoe, too blurred to discern the exact design, but the Murong brother could tell the foot wearing it was very white. Very well maintained. Gushue had arrived. Silently, the room door had been opened, and the owner of the embroidered shoe had stepped in. The Murong brother remained perfectly still. The newcomer was Gushue herself. Her feet had the softness of cat's paws, making no sound upon touching the ground. Without the Murong brother's heightened senses, one might not even be aware of her presence. This alone was a crude indication of Gushue's formidable strength. To have become the leader of the Chongling sect, using the entire sect's disciples as nourishment for some nameless evil skill, Gushue was certainly not an ordinary cultivator of the Tongyu realm. Moreover, the swordsmanship of the White Dew Sword Immortal was famous throughout the martial world decades ago. In the years that followed, as she wore that unpredictable mask and rarely made a move, could it be that her swordsmanship had improved a step further? On the bed, the Yu Zhenjin was facing away from the door, and only a lump under the quilt could be seen. Beneath that mask, a pair of eyes burned with jealousy like flames. Silently, Gushue lifted her sleeve. From beneath the wide cuff was not a sword, but a metal cylinder. Suddenly, a cold light flashed out, sharp and swift. The thick quilt and the straw dummy, even the bedboard, were pierced through. It turned out to be a bone-piercing nail. The esteemed sect master, to deal with a young disciple of her own line, Gushue not only launched a sneak attack but used such vicious hidden weapons. The moment the nail pierced through the quilt, Gushue's eyes changed. As an experienced old Riverside, she realized that beneath the quilt was not a person. Could her disciple have known that she was coming to kill her tonight? Although surprised, Gushue did not panic, because she knew she couldn't lose. Not a chance. As her eyes narrowed slightly, the sword hidden in her sleeve flicked upwards. Whoosh, a coiled sword chi shot towards the horizontal beam. That was precisely where Yu Zhenjin was hiding. Yu Zhenjin swayed and fell from the beam, while at almost the same moment, her hiding spot was torn to shreds by the sword chi, sending pieces flying everywhere. However, the coiling sword chi dissolved before it could touch the ceiling, not even disturbing the roof tiles, showing how well Gushue controlled her sword chi. Before Yu Zhenjin could hit the ground, another new coiling sword chi was launched at her. Even Duan Yun, the dual masters of sword and saber, had never seen such a coiling sword chi. The sword chi was white, like clouds surrounding a mountain, appearing soft but quick and fierce, full of hidden dangers. What's crucial was that its coiling nature made it difficult to predict its trajectory. This was none other than the Chongling sect's white cloud surrounding sword style, casually executed by Gushue like antelope horns, without a trace of worldliness. Just as Yu Zhenjin in midair seemed to have no escape, bound to be struck by this tricky sword chi. Suddenly, there was a crisp snap. Yu Zhenjin's true chi flowed throughout her body, and her palms came together, clamping the coiling sword chi with the force of thunder. For a moment, the coiling sword chi twisted and writhed like a living poisonous snake between her palms. And as she touched down, she hurled the sword chi back the way it came, its force now even greater. Chapter 251. With a swish, a corner of the screen was whirled away, aimed straight for Gushue's face. Gushue's cold fragrance sword flicked upwards, as if striking a venomous snake mid-flight, instantly casting it aside. With a whoosh, The sword chi left a hole in the wall, smoke billowing. At this moment, the quietude within the room was shattered. You see, just moments ago, in the snap of a finger, the adversaries exchanged several blows, utterly silent throughout. Gushue, her snowy hair cascading over her shoulders, sword in hand, looked upon her so-called beloved disciple, and said, "Errant disciple, will you not submit to execution?" Yu Zhenjin, with a faint blue smoke rising from her hands, replied, "Why should I be executed? Because I don't eat meat? Or because I failed to fulfill my master's wishes?" Gushue let out a cold laugh and said, "For that attitude alone, you deserve to die 100 times over." Yu Zhenjin responded, "What attitude? Perhaps for you, master, the attitude of your lover is 100 times more important than your disciple's life." Gushue's eyes faltered slightly as she said, "You truly are a calamity. There's no chance for you to live past today." Yu Zhenjin, unarmed, stretched out her hands and said, "It just so happens that I would like to experience master's swordsmanship." Yet with a sword in her hand, Gushue remained motionless. "Master, could it be that you are a bit wary of me?" Yu Zhenjin confidently proclaimed. Yu Zhenjin bowed her head, especially when her hair was tied in a high ponytail. She bowed her head profoundly, and this bowing only intensified the indescribable aura of dominance about her. A jealous flame flickered in Gushue's eyes as she scoffed. "You think you can contend with me by relying on the spirit rhinoceros palm passed down from our grandmaster?" Yu Zhenjin answered directly, "Yes, the spirit rhinoceros palm is the nemesis of all swords in the world. So why couldn't it bring you down? The spirit rhinoceros palm is indeed magical, but you're still not skilled enough." Yu Zhenjin looked at her beautiful palms and said, "My spirit rhinoceros palm is incomplete, far from the nemesis of all swords in the world. But as for your swordsmanship, no matter how your swordsmanship changes, it's still that of the Chongling sect." Her demeanor remained supremely confident, as though with these palms alone, even when facing the sect leader Gushue, she could effortlessly parry her sword moves. Indeed, her recent return of the white cloud surrounding sword style, with the spirit rhinoceros palm, demonstrated such potential. Nevertheless, such confidence from Yu Zhenjin was unwarranted. After all, she faced Gushue, a sect leader vastly more powerful than herself. Skill and restraint could narrow the gap to some extent, but not to such a degree. But confident she was. For a moment, true chi enveloped Gushue, deepening around her until her form was submerged. Her chilling voice then floated over, "I know you've always been overly confident, but I hadn't expected it to this extent." In that instant, her voice changed. No, not just her voice. Everything around her had changed. In just a flash, the room, which seemed a bit spacious, was now suffused with her sword energy. This had become her home ground, the sword field created from her concentrated sword energy. A swordsman within their own sword field can turn everything to their advantage, nearly invincible. Throughout history, martial artists capable of creating a sword field have been rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Even Duan Yun, dual masters of sword and saber, could not achieve this, as he had never even heard of the concept of a sword field and had no clue it existed. Yu Zhenjin's expression maintained its confidence, but her heart was in utter turmoil. She knew she couldn't withstand this blow. The difference in strength was too vast. Ordinarily, her only chance would be to strike before the sword field fully materialized, seizing a sliver of hope. But this wasn't an ordinary situation. Right then, a man's voice faintly emerged. "You shouldn't have come. Coming here is seeking death. Murong is a gentle person. His saber is gentle too. He would not harm a beautiful woman like you unless absolutely necessary. Regrettably, you still came." The Murong brothers crawled out from underneath the bed, took up a position with their back to Gushue, and began a long-winded, pompous speech. These words had been rehearsed silently under the bed for quite a while, and now he finally had the chance to say them. "Murong." Gushue remained calm. Now that the sword field was established, even if that wench had a trick up her sleeve, it posed no threat. What's more, it's someone who couldn't articulate clearly. But in the next moment, Gushue's composure wavered. It was because she had seen Murong's fluttering green hair. Could it be the green blade demon? The intimidation of Murong saying 100 grandiose words was nothing compared to the moment his green hair fluttered. At that moment, Gushue also realized that despite his awkward stance, he was indeed a master. Especially the feeling of his hair fluttering green, filled with sword intent, was something to be truly wary of. Gushue looked at Yu Zhenjin and said, "Errant disciple, you've even colluded with the green blade demon to harm your fellow disciples. Don't think you're the only one with allies." As her words fell, a window silently opened and a person floated in without a sound. One could almost see invisible wings carrying him as he flew. The Qinggong skill exhibited was indeed astonishing. Dressed in white, holding a jade flute, and with a belt studded with sapphires the size of dragon's eyes, his attire was extravagantly elegant. But what you would notice first were his eyes. For his eyes were also bound by a delicate jade band, completely obscuring his vision. His appearance alone, in the span of several breaths, dominated the aura of the Murong brothers. Chapter 252. Murong brothers noticed and wondered. Prince Yuxiao, the man with the jade flute in his hand, elegantly twirled it and confidently said, "I haven't been active in the martial world for 10 years. I didn't expect that people still recognize me." Murong brothers took a deep breath and said, "Because there aren't many blind men as famous as you in this world. Yuxiao of East Sea, the blind prince, brings impermanence to life. Now the court's power has weakened, but that is relative to the era of unifying Zhuzhou and dominating the world. Even though Zhuzhou is now divided among sects and noble families, the royal family remains one of the most powerful forces in the world. And for someone to self-proclaim as a prince under these circumstances, it usually means that they possess extraordinary strength. They are the existence that even the royal family would not willingly reckon with. Prince Yuxiao of East Sea is such an existence." Murong brothers holding the hilt of the green moon saber said, "Some say that with your profound idle time, if you were not blind, you would have dominated the East Sea by now. Others say that even with your blindness, even though you did not inherit the sword sect, given 10 years, you could still become the overlord of the East Sea, for you are one of the most terrifying blind men in this world. But 10 years ago you suddenly disappeared. Some say you were struck down by the envy of the heavens and died of a terrible disease. Others speculate that you, as the Prince Yuxiao of the East Sea who did not inherit the sword sect and thus couldn't ascend to power, met an ominous end by foul play. Even more believe you had an epiphany, no longer indulged in matters of the martial arts, focusing solely on playing your flute, content with your own joy, without meddling in worldly affairs. Unexpectedly, here you are, engaging in these sordid deeds." The man with the flute did not speak, but simply started to play the Yuxiao. The sound of Yuxiao was like silk, lingering and melodious, each note seemingly pulling on the heartstrings. Suddenly, the music surged intensely, as if waves crashing against rocks. In an instant, the sound of the flute changed, resembling the union of a man and a woman, their bodies becoming fervent with uncontrollable desires under the seductive play of the flute. Even just standing there, Yu Zhenjin and Murong brothers felt not just their minds, but even their true qi being affected, fluctuating with the music. For a martial artist to lose control over their mental state and true qi is a very dangerous matter. Just then, the flute's sound became deep and sorrowful, like a drowning person amidst cold, endless sea waters, seeing no sign of life, only despair ahead. At this moment, Yu Zhenjin and Murong brothers struggled to control their minds, but still found themselves affected by the music. Their emotions became heavy, and their true qi sluggish. But they did not move because they knew that, in such a situation, the best strategy was to respond to motion with stillness. Before this, whether it was Gushue's sword field or Prince Yuxiao's music, they could say they had lost the initiative. Any movement would reveal greater vulnerabilities, leaving their efforts fruitless. The sound of Yuxiao continued to descend, the air in the room seemingly about to solidify into ice. Prince Yuxiao did not utter a word, but a pleased expression surfaced on the face of the one playing the flute. The message he wanted to convey was clear. Compared to him, the so-called Green Blade Demon was nothing more than a fart. He had only disappeared for 10 years, not died, and no newcomer could meddle in his affairs. Murong brothers and Yu Zhenjin were holding their breath in concentration. Especially the Murong brothers, their hair tinged with extreme green. Because he knew, once the sound of Yuxiao reached its pinnacle, it would be the moment the other party made their move. Sure enough, the flute's sound could sink lower, becoming so desolate and sorrowful it made him want to weep. Because his life had been too bitter. His sister was the best in the world. Unfortunately, she was his sister, and his sister was in love with someone else. He really wanted to die. The sound of Yuxiao and the sword field had merged, turning the entire room into an iron barrel. An iron barrel meant to claim lives. Inside, Murong brothers and Yu Zhenjin were like meat on a chopping block. Just as the sound of Yuxiao was about to reach its peak, as Prince Yuxiao and Gushue were about to strike and take lives, suddenly a burst of wild laughter erupted. Ha 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 ha. The doors of the wardrobe in the room were flung open, revealing Duan Yun's handsome, laughing figure. The sound of the Yuxiao was instantly diluted, and the Murong brothers began to laugh wildly as well. Their laughter combined, overpowering the flute's sound for a moment. Prince Yuxiao's forehead bulged with veins. While laughing, Murong brothers turned to Duan Yun and said, "What are you laughing about?" Duan Yun laughed and said, "Haven't you noticed how odd he is? What's odd about him? How tall is he? Nearly 8 feet. Look at his feet. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha." At this point, Murong brothers laughed even harder, with tears streaming down their face. A man of 8 feet tall, yet with feet only 3 inches long. Are you aspiring to be a little wife? Ha 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 ha. Prince Yuxiao could no longer hold back, bellowing, "Nonsense. I clearly have 3 inches and 2. Almost at the same time, old Demon Duan had already made his move. Chapter 253. Extraordinary Wisdom in Motion. Young hero's heroic spirit soars to the skies. In an instant, Duan Yun made his move. His attack was a punch. Before the punch arrived, its force had already struck. Prince Yuxiao, having been enraged by Duan Yun, had shown a lapse in his concentration, yet his reaction was incredibly swift. Blind since childhood, his perception far exceeded that of ordinary people. Suddenly, he lifted the jade flute in his hand, and chi force propelled a string of flying needles shooting outwards. With a boom, Duan Yun's punch, domineering in force, shattered Prince Yuxiao's flying needles along with the chi force. The residual fist power struck directly onto Prince Yuxiao's body. However, befitting a well-known master of many years, the moment the fist power hit him, his body floated away like a gust of wind. This clever use of Qinggong almost completely neutralized Duan Yun's violent fist power. Young hero Duan's attack came wave after wave. If one wave wasn't enough, then 2. Without any hesitation, he pursued him. Moonlight scattered across the plum blossom courtyard. Duan Yun looked up, only to see Prince Yuxiao, elegant as a poised tree, floating in the air. Behind Duan Yun, the twin-tailed boxer Dharma image appeared, with patterns of white silk stockings emerging, and the Cheongsam rippled with concentric waves. At that moment, from mid-air, Prince Yuxiao's clothes fluttered, releasing countless hidden weapons. These hidden weapons included nails, arrowheads, flying needles, and small knives, coming fiercely with spinning force. Some hidden weapons even collided with each other, becoming even faster and more difficult to track. For a time, Duan Yun seemed to be in a sudden downpour of hidden weapons. He raised his fist and launched it forward. A gap was blasted through the downpour, but in the next instant, breaking body sword energy emerged around Duan Yun. Indeed, these hidden weapons would spin and scatter upon hitting the ground, making them very hard to defend against. However, with so many hidden weapons, they would eventually run out. Sure enough, after a burst of intense firing, there were no more hidden weapons in the air. Just as Duan Yun was about to counterattack, his body turned, surrounded by swirling fist winds. Pop, pop, pop. Those were the sounds of hidden weapons being deflected by fist power. It turned out that the hidden weapons on the ground were rushing upwards again, due to Prince Yuxiao slightly twisting his jade flute, revealing a metallic sheen akin to a magnet. Powered by his true qi, he was able to retract these hidden weapons. In the instant of retrieval, the hidden weapons fell like a flowery rain once again. Thus, Duan Yun's counterattack instantly had to switch back to defense. Under the moonlight, Prince Yuxiao rotated in the air, as if performing an elegant dance. Yet, beneath this dance, arose an unpredictable storm of hidden weapons. The last time Duan Yun had seen such a dense barrage of hidden weapons was from the flying needles shot by Peacock Demon. He had to admit, Prince Yuxiao's skill with hidden weapons was even superior to Peacock Demon's. Just the back-and-forth shooting of these hidden weapons exerted tremendous pressure. This was the first time Duan Yun realized the importance of air control. Prince Yuxiao, from a height, continuously and elegantly rotated, firing hidden weapons incessantly, enveloping Duan Yun. Due to the unpredictable trajectories of the hidden weapons and their ferocious momentum, Duan Yun had to devote more energy to defense. Prince Yuxiao, spreading his legs even more fiercely, shot out hidden weapons while coldly sneering, "Ignorant brute, you think you can compete with me? My heavenly annihilation dominates all fist forces." He could foresee under his heavenly annihilation, this slanderer of his 3-inch foot would not last 5 rounds, because heavenly annihilation would only get stronger and faster. He had to admit this guy was also quite formidable to have lasted until now. Immersed in the rain of hidden weapons, Duan Yun also felt the pressure, as his opponent gave him no time to breathe or change moves. Indeed, not even a gap to change Dharma images. Because during the gap of changing Dharma images, these dense hidden weapons with difficult trajectories would take advantage of the opening. These piercingly powerful hidden weapons indeed somewhat restrained his open and close fist technique. Yet, Duan Yun was not panicked at all. Suddenly, Duan Yun looked up and roared, "Extraordinary wisdom! I command you to create a new move!" Inside, Murong was chopping people with a knife, startled by the roar. This guy was starting again, and aside from him, everyone else thought it was nonsensical babble. Creating a move in the middle of a master duel. You think you're playing with mud. The pressure exerting Prince Yuxiao, believing the other to be greatly mentally disturbed, thought he could easily break him. At that moment, the twin-tailed Dharma's white silk stockings transformed, the patterns turning into tiny dragon scales, and even the ripples on her cheongsam turned into spinning little dragons. Duan Yun's extraordinary wisdom found the breaking point. The opponent continuously suppressed him by occupying the high ground with constant attacks. He needed to ascend, even fly higher. Under the command of his fist, his punch was to blast himself upwards. Thus, fist power spiraled around him in dragon shapes. Lu Mountain, ascending dragon dominance. With a booming sound, the Dharma image along with the dragon-shaped fist power burst into the sky, followed by Duan Yun, who was throwing the punch. Various sizes of dragon shapes converged together at that moment, directly breaking through the rain of hidden weapons. Even the roof tiles of the neighboring houses were blown away. This punch was formidable in force, causing Prince Yuxiao to stagger and choose to temporarily avoid the sharp edge. However, at the same time, his cunning feet stepped on 2 iron beads, drifting higher to maintain aerial suppression. But almost at the same time, another loud roar echoed, and the winds around him turned chaotic. Chapter 254. Lu Mountain Dragon Flying. The dragon-shaped fist power coiling around him twisted, like a divine dragon swinging its tail, smashing into the air creating rippling waves, as Duan Yun zoomed swiftly upwards into the sky. In the blink of an eye, Duan Yun reached high altitudes, with cold winds howling. Originally flying high, Prince Yuxiao suddenly found himself beneath him. Prince Yuxiao was terrified. Flying so high, was he seeking death? His heavenly annihilation aimed to suppress the enemy below him, using a continuous rain of hidden weapons to kill the enemy inside. But once the enemy was above him, the effectiveness of heavenly annihilation naturally diminished greatly. Moreover, at this moment, Duan Yun's voice sounded again. Descending from the sky. 16 strange fists. When Duan Yun first roared, Prince Yuxiao thought he had lost his composure, a sign of imminent collapse. The second time, he noticed the opponent's fist style had changed, indeed somewhat effective, but he was not panicked, believing the situation was still under control. The third time, when Duan Yun roared flying above him, he was indeed startled, yet he struggled to maintain composure. But now, as Duan Yun roared and swung his fist from the air, he was a bit dazed. As a master, especially one with exceptional perceptive abilities, Prince Yuxiao had grasped the opponent's tactics when the first punch was thrown, but since the opponent started roaring about creating his own moves in combat, the opponent's tactics changed. They changed drastically, just like he had really suddenly created his own fist techniques. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Even if one could create their own techniques, how could they create a set in the blink of an eye? Yes. From the moment Duan Yun blasted himself out, everything was new. Even now the 16 strange fists, because of its descent from the sky, burst forth with a completely different brilliance. Prince Yuxiao, being conceited himself, his true qi surging throughout his body, intended to withstand this punch descending from the sky. But when the fist power enveloped him, causing the ground to crack, he had already given up on this decision. He might get hurt. He, Prince Yuxiao, can injure others but must not injure himself. Schwer, unification. Passionate love dragon transformation. Inside the house, Gushua's sword techniques were sometimes like entwining clouds, sometimes like 1,000 waves crashing with snow. Incredibly exquisite. Her original intention was to first crush this wayward disciple, then together slaughter the more powerful green blade demon. But Yu Zhenjin, bearing the secret art of spirit rhinoceros palm, was able to defend herself momentarily. From this perspective, Yu Zhenjin appeared like a small boat amid her waves of sword qi, seemingly about to be overwhelmed and crushed, yet she managed to hold on each time, on the verge of capsizing. Moreover, behind her, Green Blade Demon kept fiercely slashing evil sword qi at her. If it weren't for her sword field already formed, she might have been cut by this perverted blade demon. Just then, she suddenly heard her lover's cry from outside. Without any hesitation, Gushue rushed outside, indifferent to her own life, because she knew he was in danger. He needed her. Green Blade Demon's sword qi tore open her leg's skin, bringing up a spray of blood. She disregarded it. Her body shot out like a cannonball. No one could stop their unification. In the instant when 16 Strange Fist from the sky was about to strike, Gushue and Prince Yuxiao met. It could truly be said that when the adulterous wife and the treacherous husband met, they overwhelmed countless evil demons of the human world. At the moment of their meeting, the true qi in their bodies connected in one line, and their entire bodies linked from head to tail, spinning like fish in water. Terrifying power erupted, resembling two intertwining chasing fish, flying upwards. The next moment, the fist power of 16 Strange Fist met the power of passionate love dragon transformation. With a boom, a circular ripple-like wave spread out, and the surrounding air flowed like water. Courtyard walls burst apart. Even the roof tiles flew up like shattered paper. Even more eerie, Morong and Yu Zhenjin both felt the air was filled with melancholy, yet heroic spirit, compelling one to be a hero, along with an atmosphere that made desires surge. Even the aftermath was so terrifying. Both quickly circulated their true qi to defend. Duan Yun floated in the air, gasping heavily. After consecutively using the newly created Lu Mountain Ascending Dragon Dominance, Lu Mountain Dragon Flying, and the 16 Strange from the sky, he too felt exhausted and needed to breathe. In the courtyard, there was a huge crater, dust swirling. Prince Yuxiao and Gushue were in it, their fate unknown. Suddenly, Duan Yun's expression changed, because the swirling dust began to move, forming the shapes of two swimming fish. Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! Laughter from both a man and a woman echoed simultaneously. This is the cultivation technique that I will use to dominate Lai Zhou, to first turn its people into slaves of passion. Today, I will let this foul-mouthed cursing creature broaden your horizons. Suddenly, wind arose from the ground. Gang wind. The queer strength of the fish-like thrusts was already connected, causing skin to ache even at a distance, intensifying the desires. Almost at the same time, the fish in the inner lakes of the Chongling sect leapt out of the water, shooting into the air as if they could fly. Thus, under the night sky, it unexpectedly began to rain fish. After landing on the shore, these fish madly swam towards the plum blossom courtyard, at great speed. They, too, wanted to partake in this feast of desires. Simultaneously, the female disciples of the nearby Chongling sect buildings issued suppressed gasps. Some had already heard the commotion here, others wanted to risk seeing the spectacle. All were pushed back by the undulating chi force. Even from a distance, they sensed that a terrifying battle was taking place near the eldest sister. In both shock and fear, they had no time for alerts or to inform their masters, instantly overwhelmed by uncontrollable desires. Just like those sisters that had gone out, driven by the desire to unleash their passions and receive guests. Everything happened too suddenly. Jin Jinyu suddenly yelled, "Run!" Upon seeing this scene, Duan Yun was not deterred but instead exclaimed excitedly, "This is indeed the evil skill you practice. Truly wicked. Little you, come out." Almost simultaneously, his Dharma image behind him transformed, now taking on the appearance of a cold, black silk netherworld female sword immortal. The moment Little You appeared, a furious emotion surfaced in her eyes. It was unclear whether it was against the evil nature of the menacing fish dragon Chi or the frustration that she had only entered the scene at this moment. The spinning, heavenly desire fish dragon transformation grew terrifyingly. Even the moon seemed to fear it and hid. It was like a storm that wanted to engulf the entire Chongling sect in a sea of desires. It made people prurient and terrifyingly fearful. But at this moment, there was one person who did not retreat but advanced, leaping forward, like a retainer resigned to death, like a monk who says, "If not me, then who?" Into hell, resembling a madman to the extreme, breaking body sword energy. With a boom, the pitch-black breaking body sword energy turned into a column of sword chi, charging first at the spinning fish dragon Chi. Morong holding the green saber, his gaze fierce. He had felt Duan Yun's overwhelming heroic spirit, and knew only their combined heroic effort could save the Chongling sect from this peril. Thus, uncontrollably, he lay back under the bed, as his green hair undulated and grew. The sword column struck the spinning heavenly desire fish dragon Chi. The ground sank significantly. The Chi force paused momentarily, became blurred, but then began spinning again. Within the Chi force, Prince Yuxiao and Gushue linked back to back, grinning savagely. "Ha ha ha! A firefly dares to rival the bright moon. Ha!" Suddenly, the two just saw the sword column tilting upwards. Then they were engulfed by a shadow. In the air, Duan Yun and Little Yu merged into one, their sword chi forming a continuous swath. If the passionate love dragon transformation chi was like a spinning storm, another storm was now added before them. Love, without limits. Duan Yun and Little Yu, carrying terrifying love, descended from the sky. Boom! Like the sound of thunder, the two storms collided with terrifying momentum. The ground of the plum blossom courtyard abruptly sank, walls and buildings shattered, and even the Murong brothers' large bed was instantly obliterated. In an instant, it was as if two giant meat grinders were clashing together. From top to bottom, from left to right. Indeed, the heavenly fish and dragon transformation whirlwind was stronger. After all, Prince Yuxiao and Gushue were already sect master-level figures, showcasing their ambition to control a state through this technique step by step. But Duan Yun, using the sword column as a pivot, striking from above, precisely hit their relatively weak wind eye. The thundering blasts continued unabated, as if real thunder and lightning were traversing within. The two whirlwinds tore at each other, gradually weakening, revealing the shadows of the three. At that moment, a sudden surge of green illumination. A massive 3-zhang long green sword light rose from the ground, slashing towards their location. Don't underestimate Murong. In that instant, Murong's green hair danced, the green sword light casting a dismal green over him, and the faces of Guxue and Prince Yuxiao were also turned green. Chapter 255. Evil cannot overwhelm justice. I, young hero, will not let a single one escape. Duan Yun and the East Sea Crown Prince visibly weakened each other's attacks. The raging whirlwind they had created earlier kept everyone at bay, for the force of the leaking winds was formidable. Now, when their figures came into view, it seemed approachable. Approachable, but not necessarily daring. That's because almost everyone who had witnessed the recent clash between Duan Yun and the East Sea Crown Prince was petrified. However, the Murong brothers were an exception. With their head filled with the relentless torment of endless hatred, only killing could bring them relief. So they slashed with their saber, a terrifying and abrupt strike. At this moment, it was too late for Prince Yuxiao and Guxue to dodge the incoming slash. Whoosh! Guxue initially intended to meet the blade with her own body to protect her lover, but the Murong brothers, believing themselves to be Wenro, refrained from striking women. Thus, the blade turned, targeting Prince Yuxiao standing behind Guxue instead. Stupid dog! Prince Yuxiao's complexion turned green, a mix of surprise and anger painted on his face. Whoosh! Even though he was protected by a wrap of chi force, the vigor of the green blade was too fierce, breaking through his protective true chi and landing. Blood spurted out. Even though Prince Yuxiao managed to parry the strike with his Yuxiao, his abdomen still bore a sizable gash. With the sword chi glowing green, it became somewhat difficult to discern the color of his blood. By this point, the residual fish dragon chi from Prince Yuxiao and Guxue hadn't yet dissipated. Seeing her lover injured, Guxue cried out, unleashing the remaining chi in a fish-like tail slap that struck the Murong brothers. The Murong brothers were sent flying backward, their face turning a bright red in an instant. Guxue immediately embraced Prince Yuxiao and screamed, "How are you?" Prince Yuxiao pressed on several acupoints to stem the blood flow. Just as he was about to say he was fine, he suddenly cried out in pain, "It won't do! The saber is poisoned! Ah! Quick! Go to bed with another man, only then can I be cured. Otherwise, I'll die from the sword chi attacking my heart." His shout had just ended when the Murong brothers also started yelling. "Ah! I can't take it anymore. I need to go out and sell myself. If I don't go out to sell my body today, I can't survive without being a gigolo. I'm willing to sell my ass if I have to." In just an instant, both sides transferred their conditions onto each other. "Do you really want me to do this?" Guxue's voice trembled with a cry, listening to her lover's words. "Quick, or I'm going to die," Prince Yuxiao said in agonizing pain. Guxue looked at the wound on her leg, realizing everything was true. She, too, had been affected by the bizarre sword chi, but since her wound wasn't deep, she could barely hold it off. Her lover, however, could not. So she turned to the screaming Murong brother and said, "You want to sell yourself? I'll patronize you. Hurry! I can't wait any longer," the Murong brother shouted. And so, the two individuals, who had just been engaging in mutual combat, hastily ran towards each other. Guxue's silver hair fluttered, tears glittering in her eyes as she approached the panting Murong brother. Prince Yuxiao pricked up his ears to listen, and indeed, the green on his face had faded considerably. The Murong brother watched the white-haired woman coming towards him, and in a blink of an eye, they were in each other's arms. Was he about to end his life of purity? With an older woman of decent appearance? Duan Yun climbed up from the ground just in time to be dumbstruck by the sight. He was at a loss as to whether the Murong brother was making a bigger sacrifice, or Sect Master Guxue was, or maybe Prince Yuxiao, whose face was tinged with green, was the one making the biggest sacrifice. In any case, it seemed that none were insignificant. Duan Yun raised his hand and shot a jade sword finger, attempting to stop the eager union between the Murong brother and Gushue. At that moment, however, Prince Yuxiao's ear twitched, plucking at his Yuxiao and generating a curved chi force that intercepted the jade sword finger strength. At times like this, no one could prevent his woman from going to another man's bed. "I can't wait any longer," the Murong brother exclaimed. "Then come on," Gushue cried, her face streaked with tears. For her lover, she would defy her heritage, destroy the entire Chongling sect if need be. Of course, that included this very scenario. The Murong brother, affected by the heavenly desire fish-dragon transformation's chi force, heightened his carnal desire beyond control. Thus his actions were somewhat rough. He reached to tear at Gushue's clothes, accidentally touching her mask in the process. Gushue's mask quivered and fell off. The next moment, the Murong brother's green hair stood on end. Beneath the mask lay a sagging face. From this angle, the skin on the face resembled a melting candle, loose and drooping in place. A visage of both horrific and shocking nature. What in the world? The previously inflamed Murong brother went limp on the spot. Out of instinct, he threw a punch and then fiercely slashed with his saber. Oh! The sudden change left Gushue, who had been struck in the face by a fist, flying backward, and in an instant, sliced by the green moon saber. Had her inner true chi not surged in protection, she would have been severed in two. But at this moment, upon landing, she could no longer stand. Her duel with Duan Yun had drained her of too much strength, and this sudden attack was yet another blow. Only then did she, in a daze, reach for her face and upon touching it, panicked, rolling around in confusion. Meanwhile, Prince Yuxiao, hearing the commotion, saw the retreating green shade on his face spread once more. "No, no, you haven't succeeded. You haven't gone through with it. I need to find the spiritual fish. I need to find Zhaoyu. I need them to sleep with other men." Prince Yuxiao paid no heed to Gushue and dashed off straight for the exit. Gushue, seeing him like this, screamed, "Don't be afraid, if it comes to it. I will die with you in a lover's suicide." Chapter 256. Go to hell with your mother. I want to live. As he said this, Prince Yuxiao's face turned jade green as he soared into the sky. But just moments later, his ascending figure suddenly shuddered, and he crashed down heavily. His chest had several bloody holes pierced by sword fingers, a few of which were right through the heart, a sure sign that he wouldn't survive. At this time, Duan Yun's face also turned bright red. "Damn it! I've been affected by this evil energy too." During the recent exchange, he had opted for offense as his defense. Thus the chi force of the heavenly desire fish-dragon transformation had also tainted him. Duan Yun quickly extended his index finger and shot out a stream of true chi. But he soon realized that it wasn't going to be easy to force out all of this bizarre chi force. As the battle had progressed, their true chi had been nearly depleted, and their spirits were extremely fatigued. An idea abruptly filled Duan Yun's mind. Love. Love for a woman. Yu Zhenjin crawled out from the ruins, and upon seeing the desirous look in Duan Yun's eyes, she quickly covered her chest, saying, "Don't even think about it." "But, if you really—" Before she could finish her sentence, she saw the Dharma image of the woman behind Duan Yun turned her hands around and grabbed his shoulders. In the next moment, it was as if the Dharma image lifted Duan Yun, and they both rose and quickly disappeared into the depth of the darkness. He's been taken away by the Dharma image? Yu Zhenjin stood there, still maintaining the posture of protecting her chest, dumbfounded. What does the Dharma image want with him? Couldn't possibly be that, right? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. The Dharma image isn't even human. For a moment, Yu Zhenjin's eyes turned green with envy. In less time than it takes to drink a cup of tea, Yu Zhenjin's eyes suddenly lit up, because she saw Duan Yun and the beautiful Dharma image had returned. I knew it! She froze in place again. The previously lustful Duan Yun now had eyes as serene as a sage. Was the problem really solved? And so quickly? Yu Jinjin couldn't believe her own eyes at that moment. By this time, Gushue was barely hanging on to life, struggling to crawl towards young Master Yuxiao. She looked miserable with blood all over the ground. Tears mixed with the blood, turning into tears of blood. The only thing she wanted to do now was to die together with the man she loved. She could kill all the people in the world for him, but fate played its cruel hand, keeping them from staying together forever. What vicious people! As Gushue crawled, her gaze swept over the faces of the Murong brothers, Duan Yun, and the rebellious disciples. Murong, frightened by her glare, lost all his fiery bravado, but he was after all a gentle man, especially towards women. He couldn't bear to see women suffer, so he rushed over and kicked with all his might. He doesn't deserve it. With a thud, young Master Yuxiao's body flew out like a kicked ball, crashing heavily to the ground. Gushue felt as if she had been struck by lightning and stood frozen on the spot. She had crawled more than halfway there, and with all her perseverance, she would have surely touched him. But after that kick, all she could do was watch helplessly as her lover was kicked away, kicked to a distance she would never be able to reach. Murong gently consoled her. "Don't torture yourself like this. Go in peace. He's not worth the suffering." With that, he shed earnest tears. Such a love-struck woman. Gushue stared at the man with green hair in shock, feeling as if she was looking at a monster. Then she died. She died of anger, with open eyes that would never close. Seeing this, Murong breathed a sigh of relief. Indeed, she didn't have to crawl and suffer anymore. He bent down, looking at the face so horrific it seemed it would melt, and tried to close her eyelids. Ah, why won't they close? Prince Yuxiao lay on the ground, barely clinging to life. As a martial artist of his level, even with a pierced heart, he could survive for a short while. But the kick from Murong, as if laden with personal grudge, had halved even that short respite. He listened to the footsteps, knowing it was the person who defeated him approaching. Duan Yun reached out his hand, and suddenly grabbed Duan Yun's wrist, saying, "In my life as the heavenly pride of East Sea Yuxiao, my vision has long surpassed that little East Sea. I didn't expect to be defeated by you. Who are you?" Duan Yun looked at him and replied, "Duan Yun." "Duan, old demon Duan." Prince Yuxiao coughed up blood. "It's young hero Duan." Duan Yun released his hand and said, "At least you're not a nobody." After saying this, Prince Yuxiao breathed his last. Duan Yun quickly grabbed his head, smacked his face and said, "Damn it, couldn't you have held on a bit longer? I haven't absorbed yet." Duan Yun quickly grasped his head, seizing the moment, Biming divine skill, activate. The moment Prince Yuxiao stopped breathing, the vitality within his body along with the true qi began to rapidly dissipate, and Duan Yun, with all his strength, only managed to absorb a part of it. It has to be said, the quality of that part of the true qi was exceptional, even carrying a hint of magnetism akin to demon electricity. This true qi was absorbed, nourishing Duan Yun's meridians and body. At this time, the cloth that had been wrapped around Prince Yuxiao's eyes fell off. This startled Duan Yun and the others. Duan Yun was already horrifying enough sucking on the deceased's head, but what was even more terrifying was Prince Yuxiao's face. One had to admit, even in death he still looked handsome and dashing. Provided you didn't look at where his eyes should be. His eyes, which had gone blind in his youth, were not just pitch-black holes. Or rather, 2 pitch-black holes would have been somewhat better. He had no eyes. Physically, no eyes. Where his eyes should have been, there was just a layer of smooth skin, complementing his tall nose and thick eyebrows, making his entire face look especially strange and terrifying. "I want to be a hero." Suddenly, Prince Yuxiao spoke. At that moment, not to mention Murong brothers and Yu Jinjin jumping in fright. Even Duan Yun, who was in the midst of absorbing true qi, was so afraid that he trembled at heart, abruptly tossing aside the corpse, not daring to absorb any longer. He gasped heavily, still in shock. "Damn it, that scared me to death." Duan Yun always liked the motto, "I want to be a hero." Even if a dead man shouted out those words, He felt gratified, thinking that at least their corpse had a heart of chivalry. But this time, perhaps because Prince Yuxiao's face was too scary, it even gave him a start. By this time, the plum blossom courtyard was already in ruins. Several flying fish that had come had broken bodies, still wagging their tails, looking excited and enthusiastic. These must be the love fish Prince Yuxiao and his crew mentioned. After confirming that both Prince Yuxiao and Gushue, the two main culprits, were dead, Duanyun, Murong brothers, and Yu Xinjin all laughed. It was the relaxation after a great battle, the joy after victory. The process was perilous, but in the end, evil could not triumph over good. Being a young hero surely has a promising future. Next comes the invigorating task of cleaning the battlefield. Prince Yuxiao and Gushue surely were of great value. Who knows how many treasures and secrets they hid. But before Duanyun could even get excited, he heard a panting sound. Near the ruins of the courtyard, quite a few female disciples from the Chongling sect appeared. They were panting heavily, faces filled with terror and desire. Unable to bear it anymore, one woman exclaimed, "I can't take it anymore, I want to entertain guests. I want to entertain guests." The rest of the women became agitated, echoing her sentiments. At this moment, these women were staring hungrily at Duanyun, who was one of the only two men present, as if they wanted to devour him. Two of them even had their eyes firmly on the unremarkable Murong brother. Clearly, they had been affected by the heavenly desire fish-dragon transformation not long ago. Maybe they had already partaken of the love fish, and at that moment their desires seemed particularly intense. Suddenly, one woman rushed over, grabbed Duanyun's leg, and shouted, "Hurry up! Hurry up!" Then the second, the third. Duanyun was not at all flustered, saying, "Don't worry, as a doctor, I won't let any patient go unattended." Miming divine skill, suddenly he exploded with a strong suction force. Consequently, the group of Chongling sect female practitioners clinging to him stood up straight like a bunch of leeks, sticking to his body. Duanyun dashed to the side, and all the nearby female practitioners were sucked onto him. In the next instant, Rong Brother's body tilted and also stuck to Duanyun's backside. He slapped on Duanyun's thigh, crying out, "I'm not sick. I'm better. Let me down now." Duanyun didn't even bother with him, but kept moving forward. So in Yu Xinjin's eyes, Duanyun was covered with people, jumping into the cellar of her room in an instant, looking from a distance like a human centipede. Chapter 257. The old demon reaps abundantly, young hero experiences divine tragedy. The women of the Chongling sect, affected by the heavenly desire fish-dragon transformation, became overwhelmed with desire, struggling to control themselves. That was truly the Jade Girl turning into the Desire Girl. The pure and unsullied Duanyun took this group of Desire Girls down to the cellar, and Yu Xinjin's mind was already running wild. What kind of scene would unfold below? A group of fairies surrounding the old demon, descending into hell? This shouldn't be happening, right? For a moment, she disliked the prospect of such a scene. After all, Duanyun liked her, and although the old demon wasn't worthy of a fairy, she wouldn't let anyone else take advantage. With her face turning green, she was just about to go down and investigate when a human head popped up. The first to come out was Murong, his eyes possessing a clear stupidity, followed by the second, the third. "Guide! Crazy guide! Heal! Go out!" In the dim cellar, the Dharma image of Xiao Yu still hadn't dissipated, helping Duanyun to heal the patients together. Indeed, because of the prior help from little Yu in dealing with desires, his mind, filled with extraordinary wisdom, discovered a more efficient way to heal. That was to no longer stubbornly resist the desire-filled true qi, but rather to guide it out. Just now, when he was affected and influenced, it was little Yu who helped guide it out. Now, all he needed to do was to help these women, who couldn't control their desires, to guide it out. Moans sounded one after another as the bodies of the Chongling sect women expelled liquids containing the true qi of desire. Some from the soles of their feet, some from their navels. All of it was expelled by Duan Yun. Once successfully guided, the women of the Chongling sect fell down from his body, their eyes becoming clear once more. Duan Yun continued the guiding for 3 days, resting only half a day midway, before he had guided everyone in the Chongling sect. Suddenly the sect master of the Chongling sect died, and upon learning the truth, most of the sect regarded Yu Xinjin as their leader. Because the Jade Girls turned into Desire Girls, even some disciples went out to seek clients. A few of the seniors in the Chongling sect, including their founding master, died because of this. Some died of anger, some from depression, and one even committed suicide. Thus, after Gushua's death, Yu Zhenjin, as the eldest senior sister, became the expected successor. After all, she was the only one among the sect who had inherited the sage's unique skill, Spirit Rhinoceros Palm. Not to mention she saved the entire sect from becoming slaves to their desires, having to seek clients everywhere. Or perhaps to some extent, she and Duan Yun, along with the Morong brothers, saved Yun's state. With Gushue and Prince Yuxiao's ambition, the Chongling sect was just the beginning. Next, they planned to extend their evil clutches to the entire Lijiao. Logically speaking, Sect Master Gushue should have had at least some loyal followers who wouldn't accept the disciple betraying Yu Xinjin. But on the surface, no one opposed Yu Xinjin running things. These women of the Chongling sect, after being healed by young hero Duan, had their mentalities elevated to that of sages. Thus they performed far beyond expectations harmoniously. No signs of internal strife showed at all. After being freed from their desires, everyone in the Chongling sect felt relaxed. And then, downwards. What are you looking at? Never seen such a beautiful woman before. Keep looking, and I'll gouge out your eyes. Miss, I'm just delivering some vegetables. Delivering vegetables? Humph. I think you're just using it as an excuse to peep. I? What I? Even thinking it is a crime. And you, the one rowing the boat, don't think I don't know you're having thoughts just because you turn your head away and pretend to sleep. This kind of thing happened every day in the Chongling sect. Morong walked with his head down. That green blade demon deliberately avoiding looking at us. Who knows how long he's been secretly peeking. Ah, so shameful? What man is not shameful? Especially those who practice the evil blade. But he did save us at least. I appreciate that he saved us, but if he thinks to take advantage of that, I won't accept it. I could reluctantly accept the old demon Duan. Me too. Morong went to the Guanyin monastery and met up with Duan Yun. Seeing Duan Yun even moving the copper lamp from the cellar and even dragging out that big bed, he couldn't help but exclaim, "You're not going to drag the bed away too, are you?" "What, can't I?" Duan Yun retorted. "Bro, this is Lijiao. It's so far from Yun's state. Why don't you just take the walls too?" Duan Yun said seriously. "Actually, you can take those bronze beasts on the walls." Morong. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he picked up the grape wine to drink. After drinking the wine, Morong couldn't help but feel exuberant, saying, "We are all aiming to be heroes. Why bother with these trifles?" He felt a great sense of accomplishment after saving so many people, especially all those beautiful girls, even if those girls looked down upon his handsome green hair. But he didn't care. After enduring so much grievance, Morong was used to it. But he encountered a problem. After being stimulated so frequently and intensely, to advance his sword intent again, ordinary stimuli weren't enough. Duan Yun was indifferent to his exuberance, saying, "Even heroes need to eat. Besides, how could such evil outsiders deserve such a luxurious cellar?" Saying that, he grabbed the wine jug, lay on the bed, and took a sip as well. The two men lying on the bed, recalling the heroic deeds of this occasion, couldn't help but laugh. Duan Yun laughed and said, "I thought you really were going to fall with Gushue for a moment." Morong shivered and said, "Don't mention it. I still have nightmares about it. You tell me. These two were famous figures. How did they get together?" Chapter 258. "Of course it's love," Duan Yun said. "Love? With your lack of pickiness. The sight of Gushue's face turned you limp. Yet Prince Yuxiao could cuddle with her all night long. If not love, what could it be? That's because he was blind from the start. Right. If he wasn't blind, how could Gushue dare to betray her master and her sect, sacrificing her whole sect, just to fall in love with him? A blind man and an old hag with a collapsed face. It's bound to spawn an abnormal love. Now they could confirm one thing. Gushue had stopped showing her true face to anyone 10 years ago because it had collapsed. She sought divine Dr. Xue for bone shaving and skin stretching. But as time passed by, especially after she entered her 50s, her face just collapsed and became particularly terrifying. It seems divine Dr. Xue's beauty skills were not long-lasting after all. At this moment, the Murong brothers couldn't help feeling a sense of loss, saying, "Even a blind man like Prince Yuxiao can be loved? Who would love me then? It can't be that each time. Only my new younger sister develops a fleeting fondness for me, right? Thinking of myself, Murong, skilled in both letters and arms. After enduring so many tormented and cursed relationships, I am destined to be alone." At that moment, he even thought of Gushue, the image of Gushue coming to solicit him. At that time, she genuinely wanted to solicit him, and he truly wanted to be solicited. But it was just too terrifying. If that face was even slightly normal, he probably would have been caught up in it. Duan Yun lamented, "What's so good about women?" Murong brother felt like jumping up to hit him, even wanting to turn his saliva into a hidden weapon and splash it on his handsome face. What does a rich man know of a poor man's plight? Damn it, I've already lost one sister. Not to mention you can make 7 or 8 women gush at the same time. At this moment, Duan Yun took out that Yuxiao and a secret book and said, "What exactly was that array-like aura field Gushue used against Yu Zhenjin and you? Sword field, you don't know?" Murong brother asked in surprise. "I don't know." Murong brother realized that this guy had been in the martial world for only a few years and was still a newbie. He looked again at Duan Yun's handsome face, his madness, his enemy-defeating moves, and how he drew in a crowd of ladies to heal them. You call this a martial world newbie? But the outrageous thing is, this guy really is a newbie. So, Murong brother had no choice but to explain the sword field to this newbie. In fact, Duan Yun's statement was somewhat correct. The so-called sword field is actually the aura field formed by sword energy. Within the sword field, the swordsman gains the unique ability to suppress the enemy and quickly elevate sword energy. The swordsmen of Qingqing sect are skilled in Taoist arrays, and when the top masters of Qingqing sect make a move, it's a sword field. When the sword field is concentrated, the sword qi crosses vertically. Once there was an ancestor in Qingqing sword sect named Li Qingping, who could maneuver 5 swords flying simultaneously within a sword field, and was known as the Dancing Sword Immortal. Duan Yun was quite excited upon hearing this and quickly flipped open the cloud mountain surrounding sword skills, saying, "Then I must find an opportunity to practice the sword field. How can young hero Duan, the dual masters of sword and saber, not have a sword field? Is there also a saber field?" Duan Yun asked. "There is," said Murong brother. "But the masters of the saber field are even rarer than those of the sword field, and there are fewer secret books." Duan Yun said, "Then I want to practice both the sword field and the saber field." Murong brother said, "The saber field is the saber field, the sword field is the sword field. They are not the same thing at all." Duan Yun seriously said, "Don't you understand that sword and saber are inseparable? The saber field and the sword field can definitely be practiced together." Murong brother couldn't help but want to swear. But thinking about the man in front of him being old demon Duan, he held back. If an ordinary person said such a thing, they would be either a fool or a madman, but if Duan Yun said it, then he had to observe. His face was already numb from this guy's beating. Murong brother asked, "What's your plan next?" Duan Yun said, "Of course, to find the lunatic from Thunder God and Mother sect." Saying that, he looked at the Yuxiao in his hand from Prince Yuxiao. He hadn't found Prince Yuxiao's secret book, but the latter's technique of creating a magnetic field with the metal in the Yuxiao and true qi within the body, which repelled hidden weapons back and forth, impressed him deeply. He felt that it must be related to charged true qi and the magnetic field that electricity carries. The true qi of Prince Yuxiao that he had absorbed gave him this sensation. Unfortunately, the other party died too quickly, and there was too little true chi left at the time of death for him to study. Maybe, if he could obtain more thunder and lightning from the lunatic of the Thunder God and Mother sect or more secrets related to thunder and lightning, with his extraordinary wisdom, he could deduce it several times over. Thinking of this, Duan Yun couldn't sit still any longer and said, "You help me transport the stuff back. I need to go find Lai Zhou Madman." Morong brother looked surprised and said, "You don't need me anymore?" Duan Yun replied, "Aren't you injured? I'm worried that you'll overexert yourself. Besides, inside Lai Zhou Madman's place, your sister probably isn't there." When the point about his sister not being there was mentioned, Morong brother's spirit noticeably deflated. Yes, coming to Chongling sect to be a hero had initially boosted his spirits, especially since it might save his sister from a life of dishonor. Even when he found out his sister wasn't here, he at least thought he was rescuing the beauties of Chongling sect. But what about the Thunder God and Mother sect? All odd and bizarre, with 2 iron flutes stuck in their heads, looking like a herd of buffaloes. Without beauties, his motivation as Morong young hero instantly plummeted. For a moment, he really felt his legs were sore, and the internal injuries inflicted by Gushue and Prince Yuxiao were indeed severe. He didn't feel like fighting anymore. Sisters before misters, beauty second, without either, this hero lacks drive. He isn't Duan Yun, who's addicted to fighting and absorbing true chi, getting company from unobservant women along the way, whereas he could only hide under the bed. Thinking this, Morong brother couldn't help but say, "Will you be okay alone?" Duan Yun just gave him a look. The look in his eyes crystal clear. The meaning was obvious. What a foolish question. Indeed, since old demon Duan made his debut, he's been ruthless and cruel. Those who opposed him were lucky if they didn't end up annihilated. Take Zhu Xiang and Zhu Haimian for instance, a great demon reduced to nothing more than bluffing a few sentences. Old demon Duan showed up on a donkey and humiliated his wife with a golden sword until she died, and Zhu himself was beaten to death. Why would anyone provoke old demon Duan for no reason? It's like this Thunder God and Mother sect's Lai Zhou Madman. You like listening to thunder, fine, but why provoke him? Look now, traveled thousands of miles to show up on their doorstep, ready to exterminate them. Thinking of this, Morong brother was no longer worried about Duan Yun, even slightly concerned if the Thunder listeners would be wiped out, breaking the lineage. After all, the Thunder listeners were also a unique feature of the martial world in Lai Zhou. Don't let the local specialties disappear. So Morong brother decided not to accompany Duan Yun anymore. He wanted to go back to Yuzhu Villa to heal his injuries. Maybe his own sister was still concerned about him. And just as the two were packing up and preparing to leave, Yu Zhinzhin arrived. She looked at Duan Yun and said, "Besides these, don't you want anything else?" Duan Yun nodded. "No more. Just help me clarify things." Yu Zhinzhin looked at him, a hint of annoyance in her eyes, and asked, "Will you come back then?" "I might, considering this was the place where I first became a gatekeeper." Saying this, Duan Yun actually felt a bit nostalgic about that job. "So when might that be?" Yu Zhinzhin asked. Duan Yun replied, "Does it matter?" "It somewhat matters. I think about winter time." Duan Yun responded. "Winter time, you said it?" Yu Zhinzhin said, standing tall with confidence. "I said it," Duan Yun affirmed with a nod. The time spent with Yu Zhinzhin wasn't long, but the peculiar fondness had warmed up. Especially after this incident, the two had formed a bond forged through life and death situations. "Here, this is for you," Yu Zhinzhin said, as she tossed a booklet to him. Afterwards, she tied her high ponytail and left without looking back. Duan Yun caught the booklet and saw 5 bold characters on it, heart-to-heart spell. Morong brother's eyes went red and he said, "She gave you their family's priceless secret technique." Thinking back, he had thought that Yu Zhinzhin had a thing for him, feeling she wasn't so shallow. But in the end, she fully gave her heart and secrets to old demon Duan, not even sparing Morong brother a glance just now. At this moment, Morong brother's hair seemed to flow with hints of green again. Both were heroes, yet the treatment disparity was too great. Am I, Murong young hero, really that much worse than old Demon Duan? Much worse? I don't think so. He touched his own hair and sighed. The world is just too shallow. Chapter 259. What? Old Demon Duan wants to be the Martial Arts Alliance hierarch? Lai Zhou, renowned for its thunderous sounds. It is said that Chen Tianshui, the founding patriarch of the Thunder God and Mother sect, was born in Lai Zhou. He spent most of his life as a fool, barely surviving on the streets, sometimes secretly taken advantage of by some old women. Then, one day during a thunderstorm, he had a dream. In his dream, he saw the Thunder God and Mother descending beside him, enveloped in a massive thunder cloud. It is said that when Chen Tianshui woke up that day, he indeed saw a thunder cloud above his head, just like in his dream, swirling around, and he could even glimpse the immense figure of the Thunder God and Mother. At that moment, thunder suddenly roared intensely, and a torrential rain fell from the sky, mixed with countless strange irons. Amidst the din, Chen Tianshui felt as though a gigantic hand had caressed the top of his head. Afterward, the once foolish man suddenly gained complete comprehension and wellness throughout his body. At that time, Chen Tianshui raised his hand, and the strange irons that had fallen to the ground converged towards him. He then shaped them into two hollow iron pillars with his hands and inserted them into his skull. From then on, Chen Tianshui was often able to hear the teachings of the Thunder God and Mother. He truly mastered divine skills and established the Thunder God and Mother sect. Of course, this happened a very long time ago, and it's hard to distinguish its authenticity. After all, Duan Yun, a young hero known for his heroic spirit, has been rumored to have become an old demon. With such age-old claims, there are surely many more inaccuracies. However, the fact that Chen Tianshui suddenly changed from a fool to a normal person and even grasped divine skills is true. Otherwise, the Thunder God and Mother sect wouldn't exist. Since Chen Tianshui's time, the history of the Thunder God and Mother sect spans over 1,000 years. This sect is indeed an anomaly in the martial world. Unlike other sects, they do not delight in occupying territories and forming a closed collective to carve out their powers. They are relatively dispersed, and the connections between their members are not very tight. It seems they spend their whole lives chasing the footsteps of the Thunder God and Mother amidst the thunder. Compared to most martial forces in the martial world, involved in both murder and treachery, the Thunder God and Mother sect does not seem so brutal or murderous. Or perhaps they are simply not inclined towards such paths. But that depends on the situation. For instance, the first time Duan Yun encountered them, he was used by a thunder madman as a test subject. There are often shocking rumors in the martial world, like a town's women being skinned, and their skins flown like kites in the sky to attract lightning. A deed done by the people of the Thunder God and Mother sect. According to rumors, when the Thunder God and Mother sect people commit these horrifying acts, they often claim it was guided by the Thunder God and Mother. In Duan Yun's eyes, these people are like ticking time bombs waiting to wreak havoc in the martial world. It's not too bad normally, but once they explode, innocent people suffer, like the handsome bystander Duan Yun himself, or the women from that town who were skinned. Indeed, even if the Thunder God and Mother told them to eat us ****, it would be bearable, but one couldn't achieve safeguarding oneself from harmful instructions. Duan Yun came to Lai Zhou with a sense of mission. He not only wanted to remove these time bombs, but also to seize their power for himself. The power of thunder and lightning, such dangerous power, can only be controlled by a young hero full of righteous aura like him, and it is beneficial for maintaining peace in the martial world when owned by such a hero. Duan Yun's plan is to first gather some thunder energy from the Thunder Madman to replenish his lacking thunder true chi, and then find those elders and sect leaders and annihilate them, while also trying to grasp the secrets of the Thunder God and Mother sect. In the end, the greatest act of a hero is to serve both himself and the people. Unfortunately, whether it's just bad luck or the seasonal reasons in Lai Zhou, ever since leaving the Qiongling sect, he hasn't encountered thunderstorms or any thunder madmen who can listen to thunder. These days, he is still approaching Thunder Mother Mountain. It is said that the gates of the Thunder God and Mother sect are located in that region, and the current sect leader, having obtained a piece of old Mother Divine Iron, has been dwelling there, not leaving for 4 years. Duan Yun's main goal this trip is to kill him. If the Thunder Madmen are like random exploding bombs, then this sect leader is the biggest one. He is the one who most deserves to be removed. That skinning incident was orchestrated solely by him. Duan Yun is not hurrying on his journey. Instead, taking it easy, as if traveling through Laizhou. It must be said, the local customs and culture in Laizhou are quite different from those in Yun State. There are hills here, mostly gentle and mostly endless meadows. It is said that behind Thunder Mother Mountain, there is a vast mysterious swamp and a continuous desert. And Jade Guanyin, the figure who instills fear in countless handsome men of the martial world, resides in that mysterious swamp. The desert country beyond the swamp is also said to be under her control. Duan Yun is leisurely riding his horse on the road. The horse was sent by Yu Zhenjin, and it is easy to ride and well-behaved. At this moment, he is holding an iron token in his hand. The iron token is of high quality, engraved with intricate patterns. The first thing that catches the eye is a flute. This iron token was taken from Prince Yuxiao, and the flute engraved on the token likely represents Prince Yuxiao himself. But what is more intriguing on this token is the hand behind the flute. It is a hand with 9 fingers, with an eye carved on the back of the hand. From one of the fingers, a silk thread hangs down, entwining the flute. What exactly does this represent? Duan Yun pondered as he looked at the token. Before parting from the Murong brothers, they had discussed this. But even these experienced old riverside figures like the Murong brothers did not know the specific origins and meanings of this iron token. Chapter 260. However, their analysis reveals that Prince Yuxiao seemed to have joined an organization, one in which he held a high position, yet ultimately he's not the boss. From the description of the iron plaque, the true controller seems to be this hand that possesses 9 fingers. One of the fingers is wrapped around with a thread controlling the flute, suggesting that this unseen mastermind controls Prince Yuxiao. If this hand has 9 fingers, does it imply that it controls 9 individuals similar to Prince Yuxiao? This hand is undoubtedly terrifying. After all, even someone as formidable as young Master Yuxiao is under its control. The iron plaque has many intentional scratches, mostly around the fine thread and the strange hand. Could this signify that Prince Yuxiao wishes to free himself from this hand's control? Prince Yuxiao suddenly disappeared 10 years ago, and since then, no one in the martial world knew of his whereabouts. If it weren't for Duan Yun and Yu Zhenjin's accidental discovery while exploring the cellar, his whereabouts would still be a mystery. Could it be that Prince Yuxiao has been hiding in the Chongling sect, disguising himself as a Guanyin statue to mislead others and trying to escape from this hand? Of course, this is just Duan Yun's speculation, especially since Prince Yuxiao is already dead. The dead, unless fond of journaling, do not speak. It must be said, riding a horse in winter is not an enjoyable affair. The cold winds howl, and a night's frost yet to subside always gives the feeling that one's nose could freeze off. At this time, Duan Yun passed through a small town, built against a gentle slope, with people occasionally entering and exiting. The town looked rather lively. Duan Yun dismounted, bought 4 steaming hot buns, and started eating. After eating the second bun, he stopped. The buns, paired with cold water, tasted quite plain, and conveniently, there was a tea house nearby. The tea house was rudimentary, but it was made up for by the hot tea and the presence of a storyteller. Honestly, after traveling for several days in the dead of winter, seeing a storyteller narrate made Duan Yun feel a bit of warmth. The tea house was crowded with listeners, and Duan Yun also sat down. You wouldn't believe it, but the storyteller's expression somewhat resembled old Gua, though he was younger. This storyteller from Yun State loves telling tales about Yun State. Those from Yu State focus on Yu State, so naturally the one from Laizhou discussed matters of Laizhou. As an outsider, Duan Yun was quite interested in hearing the local news. Initially, the story was fine, speaking of the abbot of Leiyu Temple and the head of Qingshui Temple who were once a pair of passionate lovers, only to later discover they were siblings with the same mother but different fathers, leading them both to become monks, a tale of love and hatred. As soon as the story concluded, The storyteller clapped a wooden block sharply and said, "What I am about to tell you is a major recent event. What could be more important? You haven't even detailed what exactly the abbot and nun did in the cellar." A listener, eager for more juicy details, expressed dissatisfaction. "Next, I will talk about the affairs of a swordswoman from the Chongling sect," said the storyteller. "What? Has a new swordswoman started entertaining guests? Go on." Suddenly, the listeners grew excited. Evidently, the swordswoman from the Chongling sect, no matter where, commands significant popularity. A new swordswoman entertaining guests? You wish. I heard that she has reformed, the storyteller said, waving his sleeve. How is that possible? A swordswoman reformed? With uncontrollable desires, how could she reform? Nonsense. I've saved up silver for 2 years for this. The tea house grew even livelier, some mournful, some furiously questioning. Have you heard about Lin Jianxian reforming? Continued the storyteller. That's old Demon Duan's doing. Aren't there still 3 others? It's said that many more swordswomen inside the Chongling sect are barely holding back, and soon there will be even more coming out to entertain guests. This listener seemed a die-hard fan of the Chongling sect, speaking knowledgeably. You seem well-informed, brother, but unfortunately, your news is much outdated. Have you heard? Old Demon Duan has come to Liezhou. What? Upon hearing the name Old Demon Duan, the tea house listeners gasped in unison. Not only has Old Demon Duan arrived in Liezhou, but he has also visited the Chongling sect. You all know, the transformation of the swordswomen from Jade Girls to Desire Girls is said to be by Old Demon Duan's doing. We all find this entertaining, as never before has a spotlessly pure swordswoman entertained guests, and who wouldn't want to spend some silver to taste the purity of a swordswoman. But this time, Old Demon Duan has crossed the line. At these words, the listeners became tense. The Chongling sect clarified days ago, saying their uncontrollable desires were not related to Old Demon Duan, claiming he was wrongly accused. What's more terrifying is that they have become spotlessly pure again with the help of Old Demon Duan. That means the swordswomen of Chongling sect won't be entertaining guests anymore. What? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. You're spouting nonsense. Just rumors. My uncle was just working there as a doorman a while ago. The storyteller showed a look of deep distress and said, I understand everyone's feelings, but the facts are before us. I have reliable sources saying these Chongling sect swordswomen not only no longer have uncontrollable desires, but have even become extremely arrogant lately. Arrogant. The swordswomen from the Chongling sect have always been proud, but recently they've become excessively arrogant. When they went to buy sesame cakes, the vendor kindly bagged them up, and they suspected he was deliberately trying to please them, even saying, "How can a pheasant be a match for a phoenix?"